Have you checked out Elmhurst Public Library lately? Prepare to be amazed. The new Makery, located in the library's renovated basement, provides a hands-on creative space for patrons to invent, collaborate, and design as they transform their ideas into reality. From laser cutters to embroidery machines, the Makery has something sure to pique everyone's interest. This open, flexible work area creates an environment to create, connect, and explore. EPL cardholders, District 205 teachers and students, Elmhurst College students, work perks, and business cardholders are welcome to use the space. For more information, go to elmlib.org/makery. Let's make things happen.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sue Whitworth, the president of the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst, and we appreciate you coming to our candidate forum today. Today's candidates will be covering the election coming up in April. It's a consolidated local election. So we're very excited to be hosting the candidates for Park District Board, for our Elmhurst Community School District 205. We also have some of the aldermanic seats that are going to be covered today. There's only 2 wards that have contested races. So for the other wards where there is no contested race, we're not hosting those candidates today. So for the City Council, it's wards 1 and 4 that we'll be having later this afternoon. And then we'll be wrapping up the afternoon with the College of DuPage Board of Trustee candidates. And as I'm sure most of you know, these are not partied races. So. And the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. We do not endorse nor oppose any candidate. We do have issues that we do cover and have opinions on, but we do not endorse any candidates or oppose any candidates. So if you'd like to visit our website, you can get more information there at lwvelmhurst.org. And after the election, we will be having a voter guide link there as well. You can get additional information on the candidates and additional questions potentially that will be asked. Today we'll start with questions that we've prepared and the candidates have all received ahead of time so they can be prepared. And then we will take questions from the audience. All questions must be addressed to all candidates. We're not addressing any one candidate here. So we like to keep it fair and even that everybody has a chance to answer. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Barb Young. And I would ask everyone to silence their cell phones if you haven't already, and enjoy the afternoon.
Thank you. I welcome all of you to the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst Candidate Forum. It's an honor for me to be back moderating. I'm a member of the League in the LaGrange area. And this particular race is near and dear to my heart because I served 2 terms as a commissioner in the Park District of LaGrange back several years ago. I also want to remind people that the forum can be seen from March until Election Day on Comcast Channel 6, AT&T Channel 99, ElmhurstTV.com, and the League of Women Voters website. So if you know people who would be interested in this race who weren't able to attend today, please remind them that they can catch it on one of these outlets. We're going to start with opening statements. Each of the candidates will have 2 minutes to give their prepared statement, and then we'll go into the questions. So I'm going to start to my left with Vince Spaeth. Welcome.
Thank you, Barb. I appreciate it. Yes, my name is Vince Spaeth. I'm very appreciative of the League's sponsorship of today's forum, and thank everybody who has taken the time to listen and to watch today. Presently, I've served for 12 years on the Park Board, with the last 3 as president and a couple of years before that as vice president. I've been a part of Elmhurst since my parents moved here in 1963. Both of my parents gave back to the community by volunteering their time. I learned a lot from my parents in terms of the value and importance of volunteering and giving back to the community in which I live. Growing up in Elmhurst, I've enjoyed the parks, the schools, and the quality of life. I moved back to Elmhurst to raise a family with my wife, Joanne, and my 3 kids, Michael, Olivia, and Grant. In my professional career, I'm an executive director for a company that specializes in environmental stewardship and clean water. I have a BS degree in chemical engineering from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and over the past 37 years, I've developed a large professional staff, I've developed strategic plans, and I've managed a large operating budget. I like to believe my business skills and experience have helped bring similar benefits to the Park District and to help create a balanced board. During the past 12 years, we've accomplished a lot. We've rebuilt every major park, we saved the Wilder Mansion, we worked on intergovernmental agreements with the city, the college, and DuPage County Greenway Trail. We purchased additional land that is additive to each of the existing parks, and we developed a playground for everybody at Butterfield Park, the first fully inclusive playground in the country that allows children of all ages, regardless of capabilities. We obtained a $1.8 million grant to fix Wilder Park Conservatory, and the Park District obtained the 3rd Outstanding Distinguished Agency Award. I look forward to answering your questions here today so you can better understand my passion and my capabilities to serve and to represent my fellow residents of Elmhurst. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our second candidate is Nora Wernette-Backstrom.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Barb. My name is Nora Wernette-Backstrom, and I'm running for the Park District Board Commissioner role. I want to start by thanking everybody here for your attendance, as well as the League for hosting this event. I also want to thank my fellow candidates for your willingness to serve our community. I grew up in Elmhurst, and I absolutely love this community. It was a no-brainer when my husband Kevin and I decided that we would start our own family here and establish our own roots right here in Elmhurst. We have a 15-month-old son, Luke, and Luke loves our parks. If Luke could start his morning every day at 5 a.m. at Washington Park, you bet he would be there. So needless to say, we spend countless hours in our parks. We also participate in park programs, and we're Courts Plus members. I'm running for Park Board Commissioner in order to give young families like my own a voice to the existing board. I'm also running because my parents, who are longtime Elmhurst residents, are planning to retire right here in Elmhurst. And I want to make sure that my parents and others who want to retire in Elmhurst have the facilities and the programs and the resources that they need to do so. I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and an MBA from the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. My MBA is concentrated in economics and strategy, which I believe would be very helpful as a commissioner. My 10-year career is in energy and renewables, and I currently work for Exelon Corporation in generation, innovation, and strategy. I believe that my career, my field of work, my education, and my overall passion for volunteering in this community really make me an outstanding candidate for Park Commissioner. I hope to prove to you today that I am an ideal candidate. I look forward to hearing your questions, hearing your ideas, as well as sharing my own thoughts, not only here today, but throughout the campaign trail. Thank you.
Thank you, Nora. Now we'll hear from our third candidate, Claire Kubisa.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Claire Kubisa, as just said. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this very important forum today. My decision to run for the Park Board was an easy one for me. I grew up in Elmhurst and enjoyed the many programs, parks, classes offered by the Park District throughout my life. As a young mother, I want the best for my children as well. This is a wonderful place to raise a family, as evidenced by the many young families continuing to move to Elmhurst, and I want to be able to give back my time to my community and help continue to enhance the district for the future. As the trends and needs of our community change, I want to be able to support the district on its mission, enriching lives and having fun, and also sustain the core values and vision while offering a fresh perspective. It is important for the Park District to stay not only abreast of the trends and innovative programming, but also be on the cutting edge and be able to look outside the box. In order for this to work, the board and staff must work together in a cohesive manner and also with our community. The district has done a good job in providing our community with programs and services based on community input, but also based on community input was asking for the parks to be not good, but outstanding. If elected, I pledge to work cohesively with the staff and board to meet and exceed the expectations of the stakeholders, you, the residents. The Park District has a proud history of its many partnerships, sponsorships, and intergovernmental agreements. I would like to see that continue and even expanded. As an organization with a multi-million-dollar operating budget, it is important to be able to function, meet needs, and remain fiscally responsible. As the district looks towards celebrating 100 years of service, I look forward to implementing change based on the knowledge gained through Vision 2020, focus on the future, and as it is an integral part of moving the district into the next chapter. I'm here because I want to help our community by serving as a Park Board Commissioner, by volunteering my skills as a businesswoman, counseling and sports psychologist, young mother, and Elmhurstian. I want to help the Elmhurst Park District be the place you want to go for you and your family. Thank you.
Great. Okay, now our fourth candidate, James Colbert.
Thank you to the Elmhurst League of Women Voters for hosting this candidate forum. Thank you to my fellow candidates for participating, and thank to you, to those in the audience, for participating in our democracy. 2 years ago, I sat in the audience during this very event and posed a question to the three candidates running to be the next Park Board Commissioners. Where did the candidates stand on the Park District acquiring more real estate? All three candidates were in favor of acquiring more land. I will offer a different perspective on land acquisitions that take property off our tax rolls that diminish our tax base and reduce the taxes paid to all our taxing bodies, to include the City of Elmhurst, District 205, and our Park District. In the coming months, the Elmhurst Park District will come to the voters with their argument that they need a referendum to raise taxes further to meet the needs of the district and to possibly acquire even more property. I will vote against any such referendum unless a moratorium is placed on any additional property acquisitions. Beyond the subject of property acquisitions, I will be a steadfast proponent of protecting our environment. There are currently no solar panels on any park buildings. This is unacceptable on any building that we plan to keep more than 15 years. Solar panels are financially responsible to the taxpayers, and as citizens, we have a responsibility to the next generation to leave this world better than we found it. I will push to have electric car chargers installed at our pools and Courts Plus. Illinois has a very good mix of non-carbon production of electricity, and we need to reduce emissions from our cars. I support the Elmhurst Cool Cities push for pesticide-free parks and hope you will all turn out to support it as well at the next Park Board meeting. Our Park District is a great asset to our community. The people who work for the Park District should be adequately compensated for the services they provide. I would prioritize using funds to hire and retain the best people rather than spending that money boosting Park District acreage. I look forward to answering your questions, and I hope you will consider voting for me to be your next Elmhurst Park Board Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay. And now our fifth and final candidate, Liz White.
Good afternoon. My name is Liz White. First, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to speak today. I'm a resident of Elmhurst for 44 years. As a child, I spent many summers at both East End Pool and Smalley Pool and riding my bike along the Illinois Prairie Path. I'm a former Elmhurst Park District employee collectively for 15 years. With that institutional knowledge, I feel that I'm an excellent candidate to represent you. I'm a citizen of this great town that values financial responsibility, implementation of green practices, and a desire for enjoyment for all residents. I plan to be an advocate for all residents for the Elmhurst Park District. I hope to receive your vote on April 2nd. Thank you.
Great. Now we're going to go into questions, and I'm going to begin with the questions that the candidates were previously given by the League. And we're going to start with Nora. What initiatives do you support that would take the Park District's environmental sustainability efforts to the next level? Please supply responses relating to energy, waste, transportation, and/or ecosystem protection.
So I think the Park District is already on the right track when it comes to sustainability efforts. And I believe that my career in energy and renewables really provides me with a unique skill set to help further these efforts along. For example, I understand how to structure long-term energy agreements that incorporate renewable power sources. As a commissioner, I'd advocate for more intergovernmental cooperation and resource pooling between the city, schools, and the parks. Specifically, I'd like to see these agencies coordinate efforts to explore alternative fuels for our vehicles. By combining forces, we'd also reduce redundancies and ultimately save taxpayers money. I'd also like to see cooperation to explore community solar programs and really leverage funding opportunities that are available for those right now. When it comes to the ecosystem, I'm an advocate of moving towards a site-specific approach to pesticide use, to lower pesticide use in our parks. There's a careful balance between guaranteeing usable parkland while working towards pesticide use. And I'd look to Evanston or the City of Chicago to really understand how to do those. Finally, I think our community is a great asset and we have many local groups. I'd love to leverage the expertise of groups such as Cool Cities, as well as the Elmhurst Garden Club to drive more innovation when it comes to sustainability.
And as a reminder, the candidates have 1 minute to answer these questions. So now we'll go to Claire. Same question. What initiatives do you support that would take the Park District's environmental sustainability efforts to the next level?
Thank you. So an internal review by the Park District staff revealed a rating of very good with the assistance of the IPRA environmental report card. So in order to take the efforts to the next level, I support the following initiatives. For energy, let's harvest rainwater for plant watering. And also investigate the feasibility of alternative energy sources, in particular solar panels installation, and participating in the ComEd Energy Power Reduction Program, which would save the district money and conserve energy. I don't know if many people know, but the Park District Administrative Building has a green roof and currently utilizes water recycling, which I like seeing duplicated at other park facilities. Waste, let's consider current park concessionaires and require them to minimize the use of disposable products and continue partnerships with kids around the world to remove and repurpose old playground equipment. Of importance for waste, I think moving forward is going to be looking into potential new construction projects and looking to partner with firms and programs that have lead APs on staff and lead programs and standards where fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Okay. James, same question. What initiatives do you support that would take the Park District's environmental sustainability efforts to the next level?
We need solar on our suitable park property building we plan on keeping more than 15 years. At the very least, we should be installing electric car chargers at our 2 pools, Courts Plus, and Barron's Park. We need our parks to be pesticide, herbicide free, and future vehicle purchases should be electric when possible. We should look into offering industrial-sized composting if space and demand warrant it.
Okay. And Liz, your thoughts?
I would encourage the district to investigate the use of solar panels. The hub would be a great choice for a trial program. Grants can be obtained for the initial startup costs for this program. I would increase the use of monarch butterfly waste stations. Currently, Wilder Park, Barron's Park, Eldridge Park, and Wild Meadows Trace are the only locations. This needs to be expanded to all other Park District properties. I would also encourage more environmentally family programming. For example, you could show parents how to create your own monarch station in your own yard. I would also add more pesticide-free parks if possible. For example, Marjorie Davis should be added to the pesticide park-free list. The current park is the only location for garden plots. And I also would encourage the use of rain gardens for future landscape designs.
Okay, and now we're going to hear from Vince, and I'm encouraging all of the candidates to get a little closer to your microphone.
Great. Thank you. I would encourage the continued investigation into pesticide-free parks as much as possible. Also, the use of solar panels where cost-effective. The state of Illinois hasn't quite proven to be the best location due to the lack of the amount of sun compared to other states, but if there's a return on investment for solar panels, by all means. Continue to look at our fleet with propane conversions as much as possible. All new buildings should be LEED certified, meaning Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. We do have a soil roof on our administration building to kind of set the stage for some green environment and so forth. We've advanced the use of green cleaning supplies and green chemicals for pools and so forth. We also want to look at growing prairie grass where possible to avoid using lawnmowers and so forth. We've done that quite a bit throughout the district. So overall, I think we've got a good track record of looking at green things and improving the environment, and look forward to continuing that effort in the future. Thank you.
Okay, now we move to the second question, and I'm going to start with Claire. Here's your question. How would you like to see the former medical center property on Palmer Drive used by the Park District?
Thank you. I think there are two options here. As many of you probably know, this property is connected or linked to a current park, Lost Memorial Park. So the options would be to remove the building there and integrate it into an open space into the current park. The second option I would see would be to address if this land is appropriate for one of the Vision 2020 new developments that the community is asking for. That has been outlined by our community. So one that I would think would be appropriate for this space would be a new senior community center here. I think it's a great location for our seniors, for a downtown central location to all the new apartments, condos, and living space down there, and would provide a nice space for increased activity and engagement for this population versus the current location that we have now for them. Thank you.
Okay, now we turn to James. How would you like to see the former medical center property on Palmer Drive used by the Park District?
We need to recognize the needs of all taxing bodies like the City of Elmhurst, which has expressed a need for a new police station. Would the Palmer property meet that need? Would the current police station location better serve as the new senior center? Now, if they put the senior center there on Palmer, picture the seniors driving in and out of that right on Palmer. So they've already expressed at park board meetings the additional need for more property just south of Palmer Drive. So they're looking at those three houses already. Maybe we could avoid having to purchase that. Maybe we could talk to the city and work out something that would be benefit both the Park District and the city regarding a new police station and a new senior center. Thank you.
Okay, and Liz, what are your thoughts?
Hi. The Palmer Drive property should be merged into the Gloss Memorial Park and create a passive park. According to one of the district's strategic objectives, is to include open space in the community. This acquisition certainly meets the district's objectives. Currently, there is a minimal area of green space in the central business district. With the increase of multi-story buildings under construction, this added green space would be an asset to the community. According to the Vision 2020 facility scorecard, the Palmer Drive building received an overall score of C-. The following items received a score of D. The HVAC, the roof, the building, exterior windows and doors, and ADA accessibility. These items are extremely expensive to replace, considering the original cost of the property of $1.75 million. I would recommend the parcel to be open to all green space.
Okay, and Vince, do you have thoughts on what you'd like to see the former medical center property used for?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Based upon our 2020 vision input, the community strongly desires a new community center, especially for seniors and possibly other groups. As we develop final plans, there exists a strong opportunity to develop synergies that benefit the community as well as the City of Elmhurst and the School District 205. So yes, there could be a passive park, but right now the community is saying we need more centers for seniors and for other entities within the district. So we will figure that out soon by the voice of the residents. So thank you.
Okay, Nora, same question.
So I think this is a key piece of property for Elmhurst and offers a lot to our community. I'd love to see this property turn into a new senior center. It was one of the top 3 priorities on the Vision 2020 survey, and I think it provides a nice central downtown location that's also accessible for our seniors. I recently viewed a neighboring senior center and was incredibly impressed by the versatility of a smaller center that really served a large senior population. I'd advocate for a true community effort with multiple stakeholders involved here. I envisioned Elmhurst Hospital, the library, the Elmhurst Walk-in Assistance Network getting involved. I'd also like to see part of this space used for multi-generational engagement with maybe a preschool or an after-school program. Our seniors have consistently voted for our schools, our infrastructure, and our library. And I want to make sure that we have a senior center that serves them in the way with the same facilities that they've supported for others.
Okay. Now, next question, and we're going to begin with James. The question is, do you foresee a need for a Park District referendum in the future?
Before I would support a referendum, we would need a moratorium on any new real estate acquisitions. Too much has been spent on taking property tax producing properties off the tax rolls. If you look at the average acre per 1,000 residents in Elmhurst, we're slightly above the average. I mean, we have other stakeholders. We have schools that every time you spend $1 million or $1.5 million on a property, you take that off the rolls forever. And you'll never see that $30,000 or $40,000 a year go into our taxes, go into our schools, go into our police stations. So we need to recognize that. And we're not going to grow the base if we keep shrinking the base. Thank you.
Okay, Liz?
Thank you. I see a referendum as a last resort to fund specific projects. All our options, such as grants like the OSLAD grant and corporate sponsorship, should be considered. Fiscal responsibility should be a priority for the district. It is important not to tax seniors and other families out of the district.
Okay, Vince?
Our Vision 2020 has provided the voice to the community. Over the last 5 years, we've listened to the community in terms of their wants and desires. They told us that, yes, they want a major sports complex. They want a senior center, possibly a dog park, other things. These do potentially cost additional money. But with the Park District's vision and the way we operate, we're going to be able to minimize that impact to the community by refinancing existing debt and consolidating things in the long term. So overall, we're very, very proud that less than 50% of the revenue to run the Park District comes from actual taxes. So we'll continue to maintain that focus and view as we look to you, the residents, on what we should be doing next in our community. Thank you.
And Nora, do you foresee a need for a Park District referendum?
So, as we've heard, the Vision 2020 survey said that residents want a dog park, a senior center, and a sports complex. I'd love to see all 3 developed as soon as possible, but it's just not within the existing budget at this point. So it's easy to conclude that the immediate step is a referendum, but I think that conclusion's premature here. I think the first step is to transparently estimate the complete capital costs and the ongoing operational costs of these facilities. Next, I believe that the Park District needs to rigorously explore outside funding options. Earlier this year, the city announced that they've undergone a massive effort to raise external funds for the metro station. I think we have a great example in what the city's already done here, and we need to leverage that expertise. Bottom line is that any opportunity I have that's going to save the taxpayer money or get money from outside sources, I'm going to explore that to its fullest.
Okay, and finally, Claire, what are your thoughts on a Park District referendum?
Thank you. Yes, I foresee the need and support the need for a referendum in the future because these plans are what our community, to secure the needed funding to move forward with our Vision 2020 plans, which are the plans of what our community outlined a desire for. I believe some of these things in the Vision 2020 plan can be accomplished through the existing funds the district has or can get through grants and additional partnerships, things like that. However, others will not be achievable with additional funding. As I see it, our parks are good, and that's what our community has told us. And what we are currently paying for gets us good. But our community is asking for outstanding, and in order to get that comes with a cost. The data supports this. Currently, compared to other cities in DuPage County, Elmhurst falls in the bottom third for lowest tax rates. We pay about 5 cents per the dollar to our parks. For reference, Addison and Bensonville currently have higher tax rates, with Wheaton topping the list, which makes sense because if you see any of Wheaton's current facilities, they're state of the art and they're getting what they pay for. Most interesting to me is the fact that we haven't gone to referendum for the parks since 1972, nearly 50 years. So let's put it back to the community to see if they'd like to fund what they've said they want. Thank you.
Okay. And now we did receive some questions from the audience, so I'm going to start with Liz. Here's the first question. What are your thoughts or plans for leasing land in Wilder Park to Elmhurst College?
Wilder Park is a large park, as we all know. For Elmhurst College to request a lease of the said property, there would have to be an intergovernmental agreement with the college. As long as the intergovernmental agreement agrees, it works for both parties, I'm all for that.
Okay, let's go to James. What are your thoughts or plans for leasing land in Wilder Park?
Okay, so Lizardro's leaving soon. Everybody knows that. So I've been to the park board meetings. They've been very thoughtful and looking to see what could replace that fits with the park board philosophy. I think they're doing a great job. I think we have a long way to go. But if the Elmhurst College is a great partner with the park district, so if there's something that fits, then I, by all means, agree to it.
Okay, Claire?
I'll probably echo what was already said, but I think that with Elmhurst College being so central and close to this land already and part of our community, I would probably agree to something like that, but also look to the community and see what best fits with the district's mission and needs with those agreements as well.
Okay, and Nora, your thoughts on Elmhurst College leasing land in Wilder Park?
Sure. I fully support Elmhurst College leasing the Lizardro property. It's not usable for the Park District at this point. I'd like to see a short-term lease there so that we have flexibility. I'd also like to see an option in which the parks are able to really leverage this relationship to their fullest and maybe use some of the college's facilities in return for this type of a facility.
Okay, Vince?
Thank you. All the parks and so forth are, rebuilt on a regular basis. So we have a strategic plan that looks at each of the parks. We have one for Wilder Park. So now as we sadly say goodbye to Lizardro, we're trying to figure out what to do with that community asset before we just tear it down and get no value out of it. So we fought hard to go back out to the community, talk to the college, talk to IC and other entities in town. Is there something that you could do with this facility that would be of value to the community and integrative to the Park District? So we're going through that right now, and if it so be that the college can provide something that would be integrated into Wilder Park, then I think that we should lease it to them and have that asset for the community. Thank you.
Okay. Another question, and we're going to go to Claire for this one. The Park District currently has beekeeping on Barron's Park. Would you consider other places where we could have expanded beekeeping on park land while Elmhurst keeps its ban on residential beekeeping?
Thank you. So I don't know much about beekeeping. I'd love to learn more about it, but I think that if this is something that the community desires, I'm certain that I would be for looking into the options. I do know the bee population is starting to dwindle, and bees are very important to maintain our ecosystem. So I would be in support of looking further into this. My background as a psychologist with a doctorate, I'm into research, gathering data, and interpreting this data to make the best decisions, and that's what I would do with more community support or interest and the feasibility of this. So if we can provide it through the parks versus individual, with a ban on individual beekeeping, I think that might be a viable alternative.
Okay, Nora, your thoughts?
Yep. So my in-laws have bees on their property, and it's safe and it's environmentally friendly. I'd love to see this program expanded in our parks. I think there are remote areas at Eldridge and Butterfield and some of our larger parks that could really benefit from housing some bees there. I also love to see this as an opportunity to expand our reach at the parks and really integrate some of these external groups who know a lot about beekeeping, bring them in, bring in the schools, have an integrated program here with multiple stakeholders involved.
James, what do you think about beekeeping?
Well, I think I'd start with pesticide-free parks. We don't want to feed the bees any nasty chemicals. So if we can get there, then if it's safe, because I've heard some members of the community express concern about people who are allergic. I don't know if that's a concern or not. We'd have to look into that. But I love bees. I'd want more bees if we could have more bees.
Okay, Vince?
Well, whether it be bees or any other potential program or animal or what have you, I think we need to bring that to the board and listen to our residents. That's our opportunity to listen to you and put everything in its proper place in terms of support and focus of our energy. Bees are great, and I think that could be a very additive thing to the park, whether it be a program or a specific site to do that with. But again, let's listen to the residents and figure out where that fits in our agenda to support it. Thank you.
And Liz, what are your views on beekeeping?
Well, I could say I'm allergic to bees, and I am for beekeeping on Park District property. As other candidates have said, the bee population is dwindling. It's part of the pollen, it's a pollinator. This would be a great teaching event for programming. You can teach children about bees and honey and in the environment, and also school groups can come in and see how do you manage bees, all the way from harvesting honey to this is what bees do.
Okay, next question. Do you support, and we'll start with Vince on this one, do you support a new or updated senior center? Why or why not?
Well, we kind of went over this.
A little bit.
You know, I do support it because we've been listening to the voices of the residents for a long, long time. And there's many out here in the crowd that are strongly advocating for a senior center. So yes, right now as we go through our strategic planning and we look at the various things in our capital plan, it would seem that it would be on the Palmer Drive location as a possibility, but we want to make sure that we look at all the potential locations and balance those to the best of our abilities to serve the community. So yes, I do support it.
Okay, and Liz?
Yes, I do, but there's a caveat to it. Unfortunately, this Abbey Senior Center right now is a standalone individual building, open for a select amount of time. The amount of energy and staff time to maintain that building is a lot. So what I would suggest is integrating the senior center with an existing building, like the Wagner Community Center or any other future sports complex, as people have been suggesting, and the seniors can interact with the rest of the community.
Okay, and Nora, your views on a newer updated senior center?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in my opening, my parents are planning to retire here, and I hope that they have the facilities and the services available to them. So I absolutely support a new senior center. The Abbey is insufficient, and it's small, it's in a remote location, it's hard to access. I'd love to see a downtown location for a senior center that has access to transportation for our seniors. I'd also love to see a facility that offers community meals every now and then for our seniors. And I'd love to see something that brings in multi-generations to really engage the community in a lot of different ways. As I mentioned on one of the former questions, I can really see this as a community effort with the city, the hospital, various nonprofits, as well as the schools involved. I think this would really offer our seniors who consistently vote for our community the type of facility that they deserve as they plan to stay here long term.
Okay, James?
Yes, I do support a new senior center, but I think we should be open to talking to the city of Elmhurst and maybe doing a land swap with maybe where the current police station is, and they can build the new police station on Palmer Drive. That might be a better spot. It's centrally located right next to the parking garage. How do you pay for it? Do we need a referendum? That's a good question. I would say selling where the Abbey is now. We don't need that. The seniors at the high school are clamoring for parking. That might work out for them. We should look at all opportunities and options. Thank you.
Okay, Claire?
Thank you. I also support the need for a new senior center. My grandmother, who is, she won't want me to say this, is 90 years old, 39, is currently uses the amenities by the parks. However, she volunteers at the Abbey. Volunteers because it really doesn't offer the activities maybe that she's interested or needed because of our growing senior population, and they're looking for new things, activity, engagement. And I think through a new senior center, as was also outlined in the Vision 2020, a very important initiative for our community, I fully support this. Let's provide a space for our population, our community that is needed, wanted, and will be utilized in a better way than the current facility. Currently, there's really no outdoor space provided at the Abbey for outdoor engagement. If you've been inside, it's kind of, I don't know, a little outdated. So let's up the game here a little bit and increase the activity and engagement we can for this important population. Thank you.
Okay, next question, and I'll start with Nora. What are your thoughts on public restrooms at parks?
So I believe that right now the parks have 6 parks with permanent restroom facilities on them. And that's insufficient when you consider the fact that we have about 20 plus parks out there. We are a community that loves to run. We're a community who has kids that love to use our parks, and we're a community full of many, many sports leagues. So the lack of restrooms, considering compared to our neighbors, is just really insufficient at this point. As we go through every year and redo one of our playgrounds, I think we need to make sure that we are taking restroom facilities into account when we're having that discussion. This way, over the next 10 to 15 years, as we every year upgrade one of our playgrounds, we incorporate new restroom facilities, whether that's a permanent option, whether that's a portable option that is also accessible. I'm not sure, but I absolutely would love to see more restrooms out there.
Okay, Vince, what are your thoughts?
Yes, very important thing to address in our parks. And I think as we've redeveloped each of the parks, we've tried to add new facilities where cost effective. In a lot of the locations, water and sewage is not readily available and can be very costly. So we have to balance, those two needs. And in those particular cases, we do bring in portable units, especially for major events. So again, I think we need to listen to the residents, and as we work through our strategic plan, make sure that we incorporate these things as we go forward and provide resident satisfaction. Thank you.
Okay. And Liz, what are your thoughts on public restrooms at parks?
Yes, we do need them. But from what I understand, as Nora said, there are only 6 freestanding public restrooms. Porta potties, they're great, but it would be great if we can incorporate, like as everyone said, designing into each park that's updated a potential new restroom facility for everyone, especially in the parks playground area.
James?
Last summer I was at Wilder Park with my, who was 4 years old at the time. We had a bathroom emergency, and I wasn't aware, but there was a building, and we ran over, and the bathroom was open, and disaster averted. So I think we should have as many restrooms everywhere as possible, and as a stay-at-home dad, changing station in the men's room as well. So whatever we can do to make that happen.
I like it. Claire?
I'll agree. So I think restrooms are certainly important, but as was mentioned, adding new facilities can be potentially costly given the plumbing, not having that available, or the infrastructure for these parks. So as was also mentioned, as each park is looked at year after year, varying that with what is cost effective for our residents while maintaining what they're wanting, going back to the community saying, is this important here? Are you able to get along without it okay? Evaluate based off of that and move forward. But I do think they're important for sure to avert disasters. I'm sure we've all been there as parents. Thank you.
Okay. And I echo this one. New question. One of the most important functions of the park board is to ensure good leadership in the position of the director. So we'll start with Liz and ask, how would you handle any issues that arise? And briefly, what are your standards for a good director?
Standards for a good director would be someone who listens to their staff, the directors. I would have treat the position, the executive director's position, as someone have quarterly meetings. Currently, right now, staff has annual meetings. As a former employee, they have quarterly meetings and goals and objectives. I would assume that the current executive director does have goals and objectives that need to be met each quarterly, and discuss with him each quarterly how we can, he or she can improve on their skills.
Claire, what do you think the standards should be for a good director, and how would you handle issues that arise?
Sure. I think these would be the standards for any leader or person in leadership that I look to, but somebody that makes himself available, leads by example, is open and honest and available to field any questions or feedback in an open and constructive way. In order to address those things, I would certainly, if something were to arise, work with the board, my fellow board members, to address that and also get feedback from maybe additional staff that maybe are having issues with said leadership. Yeah.
Vince?
We have a great system in place to set standards for how to hire an executive director. It's a very complicated job, and they wear very many hats, you know, from being compassionate, from being a leader, to being a fiscal responsible analyst, to being legal savvy, land savvy, many, many things. And I'm very proud of our existing executive director. We're blessed in Elmhurst to have such an experienced individual. And the board works hand in hand in terms of evaluating and setting goals and so forth. We're going through that process right now. And it's a very interactive, cooperative effort. And I think that has helped our parks excel over the years. And it's provided the kind of parks that everybody has said they enjoy. And more importantly, we've been recognized as an outstanding park district through the state of Illinois, through the accreditation award that we just received the other week. So it's a good system in place.
James?
Well, I've actually sat down with the director, Jim Rogers. He's, I think he'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who knows more about the park district than he does. And I would advise against anybody who gets elected or a current commissioner to be intimidated by that, just impressive knowledge. So you represent the people of Elmhurst, and the commissioners set the priorities, and the director carries it out, and that's just the way it's supposed to be.
Okay, and Nora?
Yeah, I love the system that we have in place at this point. I think the mark of a good director first starts with a well-functioning board. And so a dedicated board that communicates, invests in their own education, really drives the decisions that they make around the executive director. I too have sat down with Jim Rogers, and I appreciate all of what he has done for our community. He makes himself available to us, and he has a high standard level of expertise. I think in order to guarantee somebody like Jim continues to stay in this role, we want to make sure that that person is willing to make themselves available to the community and has a certain level of expertise. And I think we can look towards other park districts as examples for that as well.
Okay, and next question, and we only have time, I think, for a couple more. So I'll start with Vince. What are your thoughts on raising the bar on our ball fields and soccer fields? Any ideas for improvements?
Absolutely. You know, we're very short of land in our community, as you know, and you know, we often have to play some of our sporting events outside of Elmhurst, which none of us like to do that. So we've worked over the last several years to create artificial turfs. I think Barron's Park is a great example of that technology that allows us to have more play and a great field. So we're investigating additional ways to spread that to soccer, to baseball, and so forth, because especially in soccer, we have to let those fields rest every other year because of the traffic and the wear that they get it. So I think technology is going to help play a major role for Elmhurst to optimize the resources and the land that we have now and to allow for better and safer play in the future. So, thank you.
Nora, ball fields.
Yeah, so I recently spoke with the head of the AYSO Soccer League here in town, and they have 1,600 members that use our parks throughout the soccer season. One of the things that he really emphasized, and that I've heard from other members too, would be to expand the playable time on the existing fields. We are, to Vince's point, very land constrained, so making those fields accessible during the early spring and late fall would mean let's add some lights. Adding lights onto our soccer fields and baseball fields would really allow us to extend the playable hours, making more of our community members happy and making them have more access to our fields.
Okay, and Claire, how would you improve the ball fields?
I think this is one of the things addressed in the Vision 2020 plan was the increased maintenance of our current facilities. And so I think that that would be important within this. And to do this, let's work with, as Nora was mentioning, with the leagues and the users of these fields and ball fields and soccer fields to address what do they need, what are they seeing, how can that be addressed by the park within our current funds available to do so. And if we don't have those, again, bring it back to the community to see what we can do to work with what they're needing. I think would be most important, but also remain fiscally responsible while doing so. Thank you.
James, any suggestions on improving the ball field?
Well, I've been to the park board meetings, and the staff is excellent, and they come with proposals, and they put it out to bid, and I believe there's a soccer field being redone now, or in the process of it. And just staying abreast of the new technologies for the turf, like the artificial turf and the substrate and everything that goes underneath, to make sure we're getting the state-of-the-art durability out of the things we're paying for, and making sure we have the funds to keep these maintained and not spending it where we're not supposed to be spending it.
Okay, finally, Liz.
The ball fields, I know, need some help. I know that some certain fields are, as Vince said, are under rest. Some need to be rest for a little bit longer. The use of artificial turf, I'm torn between the two because the environmental concerns of artificial turf, but I understand that Elmhurst is a sports community, and the implementation of new turf fields would have to be used. I understand that. It's interesting about the lights issue. I've never thought of that before, but I wonder if the light issue would be cost prohibitive for the use of play for spring and fall. Maybe installing more turf fields would be the better answer instead of installing lights.
And I'm going to go right back to Liz, and here's your next question. How would you look to improve online registration?
Online registration, yes. Unfortunately, the current registration software has demonstrated that it's not up to the criteria of the Elmhurst Park District. I would recommend looking into other registration software vendors. The potential software vendors will need to meet the strict criteria, such as the intense volume of registrants at various times in registration seasons. This has been a multiple-year issue that needs to be addressed. The current workaround of splitting days for specific recreation programs is a temporary solution. For example, gymnastics is only on one registration day, and all other programs are on another day. Families should be able to register for all programs at the same time. Unfortunately, it's not user-friendly. I'm encouraged that RFPs for potential registration software vendors have been submitted. Hopefully, a software vendor will offer a solution. I am hopeful that the board's ad hoc IT committee and staff will choose the best software vendor for the Elmhurst Park District.
Okay, and Claire, what are your thoughts on online registration?
Thank you. So I know that the issues have been addressed with the recent online registration by the staff and board, and one solution has been, as was just mentioned, to vary the registration days for different programs, so moving gymnastics to a different day. And I know this has achieved the goal of reducing the high volume traffic on the current registration software program. I favor this option. I think it's working well for what they need right now. But I also wonder if maybe we can be a little more creative given with what we have within the constraints. So maybe a registration lottery as an option. So this would have people who are interested in registering for classes or programs to submit an application for registration. Once all applications are received, then providing individuals with a registration for a certain date and time they're allowed to register. They'll then go online during that time frame. They're given time to register, and this would reduce the high volume traffic on the current registration software. However, as was also mentioned, I would be in favor to look at additional options to explore for alternative registration software programs.
Okay, Vince?
It's hard to believe in this day and age that you'd have trouble with software. You wouldn't think the Park District's needs would be that difficult when you look at all kinds of online things throughout the Chicago area that occur. But we were forced to get off the old software because it was no longer supported by the old supplier. The present supplier has been used throughout Illinois and has been very successful in many cases. However, there's some quirks in every district, and we managed to find those quirks with this vendor. And we've worked with them very closely to try and fix those quirks. We formed an ad hoc committee of some very professional IT people on the park board, and we found a way to live with it in the short term by splitting up the registration. Ultimately, that's not going to be acceptable, and we're working on some RFPs right now to find better companies that can prove to us proactively that they can handle the load that the Elmhurst Park District has. I look forward to those efforts and to bringing to the community a successful system that works. Thank you.
James, online registration.
Yes, I've been to the park board meeting, and I'll tell you, they beat that horse meeting after meeting, and they've been very diligent on working with the old software vendor and splitting it up. So maybe if we get a competent vendor in, and we can go back to one day, that'd be great. But I think they're doing a diligent job regarding the software issue.
Nora?
So I personally have experienced issues with the software system. I never thought that it would be so hard to get my son into swimming lessons, but it was. I understand technical glitches happen, but they've happened consistently. So I absolutely support a new registration vendor, as well as the staggered dates as an immediate workaround. I also think switching systems here is an opportunity. I think we can capture more data from registrants during this process that will eventually drive more revenue and more participation with our programs. So specifically, I'd love to see a program that allows our users to express interest in alternative dates and times and locations for courses. This data would then help the district determine whether or not they're programming appropriately right now. Ultimately, this is going to drive more revenues as well as allow more participants in the classes, such as working families.
Okay, and this is going to be the final question before we get to their closing statements. And let's start with James. Is there a need to upgrade Courts Plus to compete with newer workout facilities in Elmhurst? Explain your answer.
Okay. It's been intimated to me that Courts Plus is called a profit center for the park, meaning over the years that it's been in operation, $1 million has come out of Courts Plus and gone into the park district. If Courts Plus needs upgrades, I would say stop considering it as a profit center. Keep the money there. I would do that for starters. There's other things you could do to bring people in. We want people, as the community has a responsibility, if they want the Courts Plus to be a nice center for activities, is to buy a membership there. We all have our roles to do. Thank you.
Nora?
So I'm a Courts Plus member, and I also work in strategy. A large part of my job is focused specifically on competitive strategy. The best way for a firm to compete is through differentiation. Firm differentiates itself by leveraging its core assets. And as a courts member and a family of courts members, the core asset that the courts really has is its multi-generational community feel. I'd love to see the courts offer more programs as well as more pricing options that engages the community and leverages this reputational asset. I'd love to see drop-in running or walking groups. I'd love to see partnerships with fitness-related businesses nearby. And I'd love to see things like a new mom fitness group. Additional pricing options is also a way to drive more revenue into the courts. The courts currently doesn't offer any sort of a punch card, and I think that that could really bring in not only more users who cannot pay the monthly membership fee from within Elmhurst, but also our neighboring communities. I personally look forward to working out at the courts for years to come.
Okay, Vince?
All the parks in Courts Plus are upgraded on a rotational basis every 15 to 20 years. Anybody that experienced the original Courts Plus back in 1972 can acknowledge how much that facility has changed over the years. And it'll continue to change as we listen to the community in terms of their desires for what they want in the Park District. With our present plan to look at sports complex and everything else throughout the community, we're going to decide how to reshuffle all the key assets and how Courts Plus should possibly change. Should we have a larger walking track? Should there be some additional weightlifting? We're going to listen to you, the community, in terms of how we design that. And ultimately, we'll put the right thing in place at Courts Plus.
Okay. Claire?
Sure. So it depends, is my opinion. I know that's a typical psychologist response, but here's why. The courts are upgrading, as Vince just mentioned, on an ongoing basis. New equipment, et cetera, is happening. It's my understanding that memberships have dipped slightly, but overall have remained relatively stable. However, I believe more market research and community feedback is needed to give me a better understanding of the current core consumer of Courts Plus versus the new workout facilities being built in Elmhurst. The Courts, as the name may suggest, was built for tennis and to this day is actively used for this. As it stands right now, the Courts is operating as it always has and not seen this large decrease in business due to the new facilities throughout Elmhurst. And maybe that's because the facilities being built around Elmhurst are serving different consumers or consumer needs that the Courts Plus is not in a position to fulfill. If the core competency of the Courts is tennis, I do not believe upgrades are in order to compete, as this is the only facility, not current upgrades, but this is the only facility in Elmhurst or surrounding communities that offers indoor tennis. If the Courts is looking to compete with other workout facilities that has recently been built, then yes, I believe continued upgrades or partnerships should be considered with regards to class offerings, for example, continuing to partner with workout organizations such as Fit for Mom, et cetera, to offer classes the Courts currently does not have in its wheelhouse. Thank you.
Liz, Courts Plus.
Courts Plus has always been a family-oriented facility. Currently, Courts Plus offers a wide variety of programs for all ages and different abilities. The various new large and small venues in town do offer new amenities for the public. Courts Plus needs to decide what direction they would like to take. If it fills the need for the population, but the need for the upgrade needs to be more specific to what the direction of the district would like to take, and that involves you, the public.
Okay, now we're going to be moving into closing statements, and each of the candidates gets 1 minute. I'm going to remind the audience here that after we adjourn, we're going to take about a 15-minute break and then come back with the candidates for Elmhurst Community School District 205. Also, just a quick reminder that for those of you who've come into the room later, that this forum can also be seen from March until Election Day on Comcast Channel 6, AT&T Channel 99, ElmhurstTV.com, and the League of Women Voters website. And I want to thank all of the candidates for participating. And now we're going to go into closing statements, and we're going to start at the far end with Liz.
Hi. Again, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters and all the public for letting me speak today. I hope I gave an insight of what my knowledge base of working at the Elmhurst Park District can help the community here. Again, I would like to speak to, I hope that my values of financial responsibility and implementation of green practices and a desire for all residents. I hope I will gain your trust and your respect and your vote on April 2nd. Thank you.
Okay, James.
Thank you for all of you coming out today. I see it started to snow. Thank you to the Elmhurst League of Women's Voters, and thank you to my fellow candidates for entering their arena. I believe I offer a diverse voice that has been missing on the Park Board. I will represent all the stakeholders of our Park District. Please cast your vote for James M. Colbert for Park Board Commissioner, and I promise you I will do the best job I can. Thank you.
Claire?
Thank you. Thank you again to the League for hosting. In closing, I hope that you've been informed on my thoughts and issues concerning the Park District. Some of the questions asked today are issues that commissioners alone cannot take care of or solve single-handedly. I will always look at each issue and work together with the board and staff as a team to come to resolve and investigate and research to come to the best answer and solution and continue to be fiscally responsible. I know I'd be an excellent Park Board Commissioner and would represent the residents, you, the stakeholders, in a fair and honest manner. It would be an honor to be elected to this volunteer position. I will make myself available to listen to your comments and concerns and will address them to the best of my ability. I humbly ask that you vote for me, Claire Kubisa, as your next Elmhurst Park Board Commissioner. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Nora?
Again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting and all the hard work that went into this event. One of the things that I think sets me apart from many of the other candidates is that I'm an outsider to the Park District. I will bring a fresh and independent perspective to the board, a perspective of a community member who's also a park user, which I think many people can connect with. As a mom with a young child, and potentially more down the line, I have a vested interest in ensuring that our park district is not only viable, but is successful over the long term. I'm not only prepared to serve this city, but I believe I'm a highly qualified candidate. My education, my career, my field of work, my love for my family, and my love of this community make me an ideal candidate. I love this town and our parks. I greatly appreciate your consideration, and I again ask that you please vote Nora Backstrom for Elmhurst Park Board Commissioner.
Okay, finally, Vince.
Thank you. Thanks again to the League and for all the residents coming out today. At this time, the Elmhurst Park District's again at a crossroad and an important time in our history and the future. Through the development of the district's 2020 vision plan, the community has stated their strong desires for the future. Their desires include a major sports complex, a senior center, a dog park, and many other things. It's very important to the board to be driven by community wants and desires and not our internal desires. The Elmhurst Park District will be working with a consulting firm to develop and present final plans and costs to the residents. Overall, the Park District will continue to be fiscally responsible and work to maintain the budget that operates with less than 50% of revenues coming from property taxes. Next year, we'll be celebrating the 100-year anniversary of the Park District. We'll look forward to providing some special recognition and events for the community to enjoy. I feel blessed to be able to volunteer my time to support the community. I hope to continue to earn your support and be part of the Park District. I love Elmhurst. I've been a part of it for a long time, and I appreciate your historical votes, and I hope to earn your vote again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you again to the candidates, and thank you to all of you for coming and for your thoughtful questions, and we'll be back in about 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb.
Now we'll be hearing from the candidates for the Elmhurst Community School District 205. My name is Barbara Young, and I'm the moderator, and it's an honor to be back. And I am a member of the League of the Women Voters of LaGrange area. So I'm not myself an Elmhurst voter. We're going to begin with 2-minute prepared statements. Then we're going to ask the candidates to answer some questions that they've already been given by the League members. And then we're going to get to questions from the audience. So if those of you have a question, feel free to turn it in. We do ask that your question be directed to all the candidates. We don't ask a question of just one candidate. And we're going to begin with Courtney Troutman.
Thank you. My name is Courtney Troutman, and I am running for the District 205 School Board. I grew up in the New York area, moved to Chicago in 2003, and have been an Elmhurst resident since 2010. We joke that we started our family and built a home in Elmhurst, so now we call this home, and I'm always in a sense of awe of community that this town shows and value it as one of the most important qualities. I graduated from St. Lawrence University with a bachelor's in psychology and a master's of criminal psychology from New York City. I spent the next 26 years in federal law enforcement and have recently retired from the FBI. When I retired, people asked me what was I going to do with all my time, and I always responded, my only retirement goals were to spend time with my family and to give to the community that means so much to me. My entire adult life has been about serving and giving back. We have been married for 18 years and have 2 children, Jack in 7th grade at Bryan, Hannah 4th grade at Lincoln. Right now, I'm the security representative for the Chicago Bears and Soldier Field, and it's my job to make sure the security practices of the NFL are held up so our community is safe. That same passion translates to what I feel about our community. Our children should be able to go to school in a safe environment. I currently serve on the District Safety and Security Committee, playing a role to make sure our schools are as safe as they can be. I'm on the boards for the Elmhurst Eagles and Elmhurst Lacrosse, and at Lincoln, I served on numerous PTA committees through the PTA president at Lincoln, and I'm currently the president-elect of the PTA Council. I was on the Community Advisory Committee for the referendum and co-chaired the Ballot Initiative Committee. I worked hard to educate myself about all facts of the referendum. It's such an exciting time for our district, and I cannot wait for the future that our schools have ahead of us.
Okay, now we'll hear opening statement from our second candidate, Christopher Koczynski.
Good afternoon. First, I would like to thank the League of Women's Voters for hosting this event, and also thank the members of our community for their strong support of education. My name is Chris Koczynski, and my wife and I have 4 children, ranging from ages 3 to 10, have lived in Elmhurst for about 8 years, and have our 2 oldest daughters at Edison School. I'm running for a position on our school board because I want to help our district reach its full potential. I would represent a continuous improvement mindset on the board in pursuit of academic excellence. Effective boards are teams that work together and have complementary skills. I think finance and management expertise is one of the necessary components for the board, especially as we start the process of raising and allocating money to fund projects approved in the referendum. Additionally, economic conditions, regulatory and legislative dynamics can change unexpectedly, and the mix of skills on the board should always be well suited to adjust appropriately. In my role as a director of research within an investment management firm, my core responsibilities include evaluating the financial position of businesses and the quality of their management teams. In addition to managing a large team of people, I also partner with and have learned from many companies, have seen them achieve success, and also experience shortcomings in a variety of economic environments. I believe these aspects of my professional experience are particularly relevant to board service and would be an asset to our board and to our community in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. And our third candidate, Bojana Ozegovic-Carey.
Good afternoon. My name is Bojana Ozegovic-Carey. I came to the United States in 1997 as a college transfer student from Belgrade, Serbia. English was my third language at the time. Within 2 years, I graduated from Bradley University with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, magna cum laude. I hold a master's in business administration from University of Illinois Chicago with a concentration in management. Both my education and career path are in STEM. For more than a decade, I worked in the Honeywell life safety industry as a mechanical engineer, project manager, and group leader. After that, I worked for Life Fitness for a few years as an engineering program manager for cardio workout equipment. I could probably fix your treadmill. I'm currently a small business owner, entrepreneur, God help me. I hold 12 US patents and 1 European patent. My husband and I have been Elmhurst residents for almost 14 years. We have 3 boys. They're at Edison Elementary in 3rd and 1st grade, and our youngest will be transitioning this year to Edison Kindergarten after 2 years at the outstanding Madison Early Childhood Center. I volunteer at Edison, helping with the chess club and the running club. I am also a REACH representative for Edison. I am a 3-time marathon runner and love running with the Elmhurst Running Club. I enjoy getting to know the people in our community, and I love being a part of it. I'm a parent who spoke in front of the school board about class size problem. Since then, I learned about other issues that exist in our community, parents, non-parents, educators, and that are not communicated freely and are properly addressed. I think I can improve this. I am honored to be here and to share my views with you so you can evaluate me as a school board candidate. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Paul DeMichael.
Hi. I would like to start by thanking the League for putting this on. This is a huge logistical task, and they do a good job. I'm very pleased with it. I have a bio that's on the counter downstairs. It looks like this, and it'll tell you that I have an MBA from Loyola University, and that I've done a number of civic things in Elmhurst over the years. I was on the school board previously, and I was president of PTA Council at the same time, so I had a foot in both arenas. My mission statement is to make Elmhurst schools a destination place for both students and staff. I would like to see everybody enjoy going to the buildings every day. Previously, when I was on the school board, I had initiated the building of 4 classrooms at Emerson School. That was the first addition that was put on after the school closings. I upgraded the computer system in the central office with equipment that came from my employer. One of the strongest things I felt about was I wrote a policy on equal reimbursement for staff people. And by that I mean if you had a loss on the job, you got treated equally regardless of your job title. Whether you were assistant superintendent or a cafeteria worker, you were treated the same. I was very proud of that. I look forward to returning to the board again. Thank you for your vote.
Great. And next, Karen Stufen. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Stufen, current District 205 board member. You elected me in 2011 and re-elected me in 2015. Thank you for your confidence. First, thanks to the League of Women Voters for hosting this candidate forum. It provides an opportunity for us to be educated voters, modeling democracy in action at its best for our children. Also, thank you for the League for hosting the venue. I'm asking for your support to provide continuity and leadership to continue our work to lead District 205 into the future, implementing your priorities while stewarding your tax investment in education. We, as board members in District 205, have worked on your behalf to move the education system forward. We've launched key teamwork initiatives with the community, employees, and legislative engagement to cooperatively work with stakeholder groups to identify priorities and resolve issues. Since you elected me, we have served more student needs, and District 205 has achieved many accomplishments, naming a few: that it's ranked number 5 best school district in Illinois. We've saved the taxpayers over $13 million through debt refinancing. We've demonstrated fiscal responsibility by balancing the budget each year that I've been on the board. We've applied technology into the learning environment. We've implemented things like instructional coaching, dual language immersion, Project Lead the Way, STEM, career pathways. We've introduced college-level courses. We've established the York a Distinguished Alumni Program that honors renowned York alumni for their accomplishments since high school. Together, we passed a $168.5 million referendum for comprehensive facility improvements, including for the Transition Center, for future-focused learning environments, all-day kindergarten. I believe it's imperative to have leadership continuity as you have given us your priorities, and so that we can plan and implement the referendum together and ensure fiscal responsibility. Thank you for your support.
Okay. Next candidate, Elizabeth Hostler.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Hostler. My friends call me Beth, and I'm running for District 205 School Board in the April 2nd election. I have 3 children. I currently have a 6th and 8th grader at Sandburg and a freshman at York. The reason I'm running for school board is simple. I am passionate about our community and our schools, and I try to give back to both of them as much as I can. I'm a lifelong resident of Elmhurst, and I attended Roosevelt, Emerson, Churchville, and York. I have seen the positive changes in our schools over the years, and I want to see that positive change continue. I've been on the PTA board at 1 or more of our schools for the last 9 years, and I've held many board positions on those boards. I've been PTA president at both Edison and Sandburg. I'm currently co-vice president of programs on the PTA council, secretary of the Sandburg PTA board, and I'm on the all-day kindergarten committee. I recently helped lead the grassroots effort to educate the public and advocate for the recently passed referendum. Through these volunteer experiences, I have learned firsthand about the many important issues and challenges our schools face as we try to make the educational experience the best it can be for our children. To me, the key point is good communication, which leads to mutual understanding among all stakeholders. And then fruitful, positive dialogue and good decision-making can happen. I clearly understand the challenges our board will face in the near future, and I can commit that I will put in the time and effort to earn the trust given to me if elected. Thank you.
Okay. Next candidate, Stefan Schlesinger.
Afternoon. My name is Stefan Schlesinger. First and foremost, I wanted to thank the other candidates that are up here today, as well as other board members currently in the room. This role is one that directly impacts families across the district, each wanting the best for their children. And I think it's wonderful to have so many committed individuals willing to take on that responsibility. My family and I moved from North Carolina to Elmhurst in 2015, and we are pleased to call it home for our 3 children. When we first moved to Illinois, we began searching for a place to put down roots. I was a bit surprised with the enthusiasm people shared when talking about Elmhurst, as well as the number of people I came across who were raised here and wanted to raise their children here. After living here the last few years, not including aspects of winter, such as what's going on outside right now in a polar vortex, I can understand the affection in this view. My wife even started a small business, Savvy Sister, within the community, which she has enjoyed immensely, and has allowed her to be engaged with the community directly, which I hope to fulfill within this capacity. Like many of you, I grew up surrounded by educators. My own mother was the head of school for the first school in North Carolina that dedicated to the education with learning and attention differences. While I didn't go into teaching myself, I have been surrounded and am familiar with the complexities considering curriculum needs with students and different capabilities. I have spent my career in banking, currently at BMO Harris Bank as a director within risk management, creating and overseeing policies to ensure regulatory and client expectations are achieved while prudently managing large teams and budgets. I have refined skill sets related to conflict resolution, organizational behavior, and strategic planning, which position me well for consideration as a board member. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here today.
And our final candidate, Gordon Snyder. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Gordon Snyder. I'm running for school board because I want to make a difference in how we build foundations for success of our kids in our community. I believe I have a specific skill set that will be especially useful to help guide the board decisions over the coming years as we manage the construction of new facilities and significant upgrades to other buildings across the district. In my professional life, I'm a civil engineer. I manage large-scale roadway construction projects in the Chicago area. Basically, my job is problem solving. I focus on how to best design, build, manage construction projects within budget guidelines. These are skills I want to bring to the school board. We need to make sure that we get the most of the funds that have been entrusted to the district for facility improvements and from the recent referendum. I want to make sure that we continue to build the academic foundations for our students need to set them up for success as adults. There will be lots of additional moving parts to manage during the facility improvements, but we can't lose focus of our district's main mission to provide a learning environment that meets the needs of our students, teachers, administration, and community. My wife, Meg, and I have lived in Elmhurst for more than 20 years. We have 2 sons that attend York, and both of us are very active members of the community. Since my kids were enrolled at Emerson and later Churchville, I've been active in the PTA as treasurer, participated in Science Olympiad, volunteered in the library, and a number of other programs. I've also worked with a large number of students in coaching positions through Elmhurst Eagles football, Knights basketball, YMCA basketball, Elmhurst baseball, and Elmhurst lacrosse. Over the coming years, our district will undergo a lot of change. I'm looking forward to contributing my professional expertise to help our community get the most out of the investments in our facilities, while at the same time supporting the success of our students, teachers, and administration. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to move into the question asking part of the program. And I'm going to rotate who I ask questions of. The first one will be Stefan. And this is a question submitted by the League. How do you see all-day kindergarten being implemented?
Thanks for the question. I've come across people with various views on the topic, and I can say that I'm in favor of all-day kindergarten. I believe there have been a healthy challenge by current board members to vet cost implications, as well as logistics, while trying to balance the community feedback. I look to continue this direct oversight to ensure that the benefits are achieved. As I understand, there have been needs to increase space and funding to accommodate all-day kindergarten. With last year's referendum, I'm optimistic this can be accomplished while keeping the feel of neighborhood schools intact. The referendum from last year is a large reason for why I'm interested in joining the school board, as I want to ensure the lofty goals set forth are achieved. As I mentioned, I have 3 children I plan to put through this district, and I would like to ensure the strategies and approaches address the dire needs across the district, and that it's accomplished in a pragmatic way. The financial commitments are significant, and I want to help ensure that the best use of funds are achieved. Ultimately, I believe the board has an obligation to push for the outcomes directed by the community. I look to deliver on those aspects for you if I get your vote. Thank you.
Okay, and same question, how do you see all-day kindergarten being implemented? We'll go to Christopher.
I'm a strong supporter of full-day kindergarten in our community, and I believe this will be an important component of improving our academic performance over the long term. I believe the implementation would primarily be designed by our professional educators in consultation with the board to ensure that we have the best possible plans in place. I believe that we should aim high and seek to create a leading program for our children. Where we have available space already in place, I would be in favor of piloting full-day kindergarten to learn from the experience and make necessary adjustments prior to a full rollout across the district. Lastly, after a period of time and throughout the process, we should be measuring results. Space for full-day kindergarten was an important part of the referendum process and message to voters, and we need to make sure as a board that we are delivering on our commitments to the community over time. Thank you.
Okay, same question. Paul?
Kindergarten registration is going on this week. Parents can opt for full-day or half-day classes. It may be that there will be a kindergarten center designated at those buildings with extra space. Ideally, each grade school would have enough facility to have its own section. I would like to see the split between the parents that opt for full-day and half-day before making any further announcements on this.
Okay, Gordon?
I support the option for parents to select all-day kindergarten for their kids. It's the right choice for some. Currently, a committee is working on plans for how to roll out all-day kindergarten in our district in response to feedback from our community. The biggest challenge is how to allocate classroom space and teaching resources. We all know it's going to be a logistical challenge in the short term as we close some facilities during construction. I'll look to the committee to provide recommendations about the right time frame to roll out all-day kindergarten in a meaningful way, given our facility constraints. To me, it's important that the option is for everyone in the district, regardless of where they live, based on a lottery or some other equitable system.
Okay, Courtney, how would you implement all-day kindergarten?
Thank you. The options available for the implementation of all-day kindergarten are plentiful, and as with any of the decisions that our district and school board must make, should be made with the input of the many stakeholders in our community, educators and parents alike. There is no absolute right or wrong answer. However, with the implementation of all-day kindergarten, each and every Elmhurst family will be provided the opportunity and the ability to choose what's best for their family. And as with many of these decisions that are being made in the light of the successful passing of the school referendum, there have been committees formed to research all of the options available to our community. The all-day kindergarten committee consists of school board members, district and building level administrators, teachers, PTA representatives, and multiple community representatives. The committee is focused on the areas of concern for the implementation. I have confidence that this committee will thoroughly research and vet all of the options available to our community and present the best recommendation to the board for the adoption and administration for implementation. I have been fortunate enough to participate in several of these committees in the past couple of years, including the Community Advisory Committee and the Safety and Security Committee, and now the Bryan Facilities Committee. I know the system works. I know it because I've been personally participating in the process. I have put my hand up and I have become involved. These committees bring together many invested and committed partners with one goal in mind: provide the best option for all of our students, for our educators, and for our community.
Okay, and Beth?
I fully support the decision to offer all-day kindergarten in our community. And there are many different ways that all-day kindergarten can be implemented in this district. I happen to be a member of the all-day kindergarten committee that was formed last month. I'm pleased with how the group was chosen. There is good representation from teachers, principals, administrators, community members, including some whose children will benefit from this program, PTA representatives, and board members. Some members have even worked in a district that has all-day kindergarten. The all-day kindergarten committee is broken up into 3 different areas, including curriculum, tuition, and early implementation. The tuition committee is looking at what the cost may be to parents who choose this program and how that may vary for different families. The early implementation committee is talking about the possibility of piloting the program, when and where that could happen, and who would be eligible. The curriculum committee is working hard on what a day in the life of a full-day kindergartner would look like. Personally, I like the idea of being able to pilot this program before rolling it out in full force. Piloting gives the district the ability to start with the format they think will work best and then make adjustments if necessary. This is exactly the kind of collaboration that leads to sound choices that will work well for all parties involved. Looking at these programs from so many different perspectives is a great way to anticipate any problems before things are set into motion.
Thank you. Oyana?
I would like to start with the facts to know. All-day kindergarten will not be available until 2024. These kids are being born this year, 2019. Tuition cost, which is parent cost plus district cost per year for a full day of this optional program, is still unknown. The all-day kindergarten committee meetings started this January. The meetings are not open to public. The finance committee meetings also started in January but are open to public. I propose the following. The all-day kindergarten committee meeting minutes should be published for transparency and public education. We need to know the itemized tuition cost and share the information with the community. So it's about the communication. With the new information available to the public, which is the starting date, tuition, we should conduct a follow-up all-day kindergarten survey to better predict enrollment in 2024 and later. The initial survey taken did not offer these vital data points, and in the follow-up survey, we might get significantly different results in enrollment prediction. The purpose of the follow-up survey is to make planning easier for both committees and to prevent unnecessary delays or overspending in the event of low enrollment prediction. Just like with any survey, we need to be extremely thorough to reach the right audience and provide Elmhurst residents with the information needed to give educated and useful feedback. With proper feedback, we will be able to make better decisions on how to use the 2018 referendum funds we are given by the taxpayers.
Okay, and lastly, Karen.
It's critical to hear all the voices in order to obtain common priorities, plan effectively, and achieve success. So we use a myriad of communications media along the way to gather input. To date, there have been presentations that have been given at the various forums during board meetings, which are televised, to communicate to all the constituents as we go along the process. All-day kindergarten is the voice, is what the community said that they wanted. And it consists of, we've got a all-day kindergarten team consisting of staff and all interested community members that volunteered were on the committee. And they're formed and they're ensuring that everybody's voices are heard. So we've got staff going out to all the buildings, and we've got community members represented. There's an interest to have all-day kindergarten go early, so we have to look at the facilities and the timing of construction and what classrooms are available. They've formed several subcommittees focused on key components of tuition and early deployment, piloting, et cetera. So a process has been established. Our teachers are defining the curriculum, so they have been part of the process along the way ever since that we heard from the community that they wanted all-day kindergarten. The committee is working through all of these various components. They're building the plans, they're communicating out, and it's all based on the input and interest of the community and what our staff has been saying and the facilities that we have to date and moving forward. So the committee is planned to present to the board later in the spring. So we'll be hearing a lot along the way and then a formal presentation in the spring.
Okay, next question, and I'm going to direct this first to Beth. How would you tackle the ongoing concerns related to class size, especially as targets were established in the 2006 referendum that are currently deemed impractical, 24 for elementary school classes?
Class size is a multifaceted topic that has to be addressed from all angles. We are lucky here in District 205 to have such a low average class size. The average class size this year of classes kindergarten through 5th is 22.8. Occasionally, there's a class that comes through that is a bit larger. My son's class is one of these. These bubbles in the population are very hard to predict. When they occur, the breakdown and staffing of that class should be discussed thoughtfully by the principal, teachers, and administrators to decide what works best for that particular class. This is how targets can work well. What might be a good class size for one group may not work for another for various reasons. These larger classes that pop up do need to be evaluated to create the best learning environment where kids can thrive. One thing that's possible in future-focused buildings is flexibility that can create the best learning situation for any group. I would make sure that conversations were taking place with teachers and principals to support their needs and address each classroom as necessary. Again, good communication is vital here so that parents are also well informed about how these decisions are being made.
Okay. Boyana, your thoughts on class size?
We need to hire more teachers. The 2006 referendum class sizes are deemed impractical by the administration because of the cost of hiring more teachers and because of the false assumption that class size does not matter. I will address both. The cost to hire more teachers is covered by the 2006 referendum educational fund with an annual cost to the taxpayer with a house value of about $500,000, of about $500 per year until 2025. The rationale for current large class sizes offered is the Huddy effect size study and its interpretation that the class size does not matter. This is a false interpretation of the Huddy study. Huddy study shows that when the same teaching style through a megaphone is applied to a lecture hall of 100 students and then again to a class of 15, there is a very small increase in quality of teaching. Speaking to the students through a megaphone does not get more effective with fewer students. The benefit only arises when the teaching style is adjusted for the smaller class. Huddy further explains that there is not enough research available for the small, closer to 20, classes, and he welcomes research in that space. We, the taxpayers, need to know why our tax money is not being spent as promised per 2006 referendum we will be paying for another 7 years. Currently stated on the Master Facility Plan website, legally, the funds received from the bonds may only be used for items listed on the ballot. We also need to understand, as a community, that the 2018 referendum will not prevent large class sizes. Many of our elementary schools will not grow to 4 or more classrooms per grade to be able to seamlessly absorb additional students. Your child, our kids, could still be sitting in a large classroom at young age. If we want young families to move to Elmhurst, and if we want to maintain and increase our property value, we cannot be saying, welcome to Elmhurst. We have new schools, high taxes, and large class sizes. Thank you.
Okay, Courtney, class size.
Thank you. I recognize that class size is important to many people in our community. The idea of just having more classrooms and more teachers so that we can achieve a magic number is not realistic. More classrooms, more teachers means more money. I would love for my child to be taught in a classroom of 20, but only if that class is being taught by a strong, valued, and proven effective teacher. My children have been in classes of 28 that have run effectively, cohesively, and collaboratively, but have also had classes of 23 that have been disruptive, unorganized, and unproductive. And although it would be great to say that every class should have a maximum of 24 students, that would have a direct impact on our taxpayers in our community. The simplest way to achieve small class numbers is boundary changes, and we all know how passionate every single Elmhurst family feels about that. While I was PTA president last year at Lincoln, I sat down with members of our community that would have been directly impacted by boundary changes. These families felt very strongly that remaining at their neighborhood walking school with strong educators was more important than class size to them. The reality is that in our district of 154 elementary sections, there are less than 10 classes that have sizes bigger than 26 at K through 2 or 27 at 3 through 5. It's our educators that make the difference in the class. With the successful passing of the referendum, there's a facilities plan in place to provide more flexible spaces and common spaces, which in turn will make instructional time feel less crowded as our children are involved in collaborative learning. We literally are breaking down the walls of our future learning. Our educators define the success or failure of a school year experience, and I feel strongly that if the district continues to invest in the highest quality teachers, instructional coaches, and classroom aides, every student in our district, whether it's a class of 20 or a class of 28, will have the best educational opportunity offered to them.
Okay, Gordon, your thoughts on class size?
The benefit of neighborhood schools is that you're in a community that's close-knit. It can also be challenging when there's a large number of kids in a grade that attend one school, which may result in a larger class size based on what that facility can handle. While we should strive to stay within the class size guidelines of the 2006 referendum, we need to be realistic about what's possible with the facility resources we have.
Paul?
There is no contract language indicating a number for maximum class size. The criteria for class size is what the parties may consider to be appropriate learning conditions that relate to the mode of instruction and the nature of the subject matter. To the degree to which the community will provide resources and such as qualified staff, adequate instructional facilities, and operating funds. And 3, to the extent possible, assign students with accommodations in equal numbers across classrooms at building grade levels and subject areas. The district has a rule of thumb for providing an instructional aid when the class size reaches a certain level or splitting the class into 2 units. This is constrained within the limits of the facility. It may not be possible to add a class if doing so would require a building addition for that class. I personally would like to see a class size of 20 students, but no one can legitimately make a statement like that within the variables that we have to work with.
Okay. Karen, your thoughts on class size?
A quality learning experience for all of our students is a common priority for both educators and community members. Class size is one easily visible factor in planning success. We will continue to identify how to effectively address this concern. We balance it with the community's interest in neighborhood schools, current boundaries, the fluctuating and increasing enrollments, and fiscal responsibility. For Elmhurst, the challenges are various size schools, our limited number of classrooms currently, and the space at some of the schools, as well as fluctuating enrollment numbers from year to year and school to school. We like to look at it district-wide, but it's not possible here in Elmhurst, so we have to look at it as our neighborhood schools and our priorities. So we see it as our responsibility to provide that high-quality instruction and assessment in every classroom for all students. That kind of transcends class size, but does not minimize it. It's actually a very key factor that we talk about. So it's a critical factor for success and successful learning. Our staff has been involved in, and they're committed to professional education training. That is one key element that we have focused on, and the educators have liked that, and that has helped with various class sizes. So what we'd like to do is focus on how can we balance all of the key components so that we can actually provide the quality learning experience for all of our students at all of our schools. We even created a District 205 university so that we can serve the purpose of working with the educators to look at what the best practices are and making sure that every classroom is good for each student. Our average class size this year is 22.8 for K through 5, 22.1 for kindergarten through 2nd grade, and 23.8 for grades 3 and 5. We look at those averages, we look at all of them, but we look at some of the disparity, and then we try to address it as well.
Okay, Chris?
I believe that class size is one of the drivers of academic performance for students, especially at young ages. I also believe that the talent level of the educator in the classroom is critical, and I believe that we need to be focused on both issues. Importantly, I understand the financial implications of these topics. I'm a strong believer in fiscal responsibility, and I would consider class size matters and all other topics in the overall context of our budgetary goals and also our future financial risks as a district. My main concern on this issue are outlier class size changes and the communication of our existing policies. When we have outlier class sizes in place, are we foregoing an opportunity to pursue excellence for those students? In other words, are we pausing their progress? And if so, can we prevent this in the context of our other constraints and variables? I'm in favor of reevaluating our answers to these important questions as a member of the board and making sure that we have the best possible balance between class size and fiscal responsibility on behalf of our taxpayers. Thank you.
Okay, and the last candidate to address class size, Stefan.
Thank you. This is a topic that I am passionate about. I think the community is passionate about, and as you can probably hear, the candidates are passionate about. Last year, many second grade parents at Edison were directly confronted with this larger class size than expected for our third graders for this year. To be honest, it was a bit embarrassing to not recognize that there were some broader aspects impacting the district as a whole. And only when we were really confronted with it directly did it really hit home. As a result, I decided to be much more engaged, and it's ultimately led me to be sitting here today speaking to you about it. So it's an extremely critical topic. On a positive note, and having open dialogue with Dr. Moyer last year, he shared there have been hot spots, and they're trying to monitor and review these regularly. I think leading into this year was around 7.6%. While it's comforting to hear the issue may not be impacting the majority, when it impacts your family directly, it can be challenging to accept. And I refuse to accept that there are not better ways to address this with a strategic mindset rather than being reactive to what we have seen in some of the strategies put forth. I do recognize there are complications with fiscal perspective as well as logistics in the number of classrooms available. As facilities are built out, there needs to be a strong consideration for enabling a consistent approach. Specifically K through 3, I think the 2006, while there may not be a specific document you can point to that says the number was supposed to be 24, it makes sense when you look at other leading practices across the United States and the world. So I am in favor of trying to achieve some of those original aspects that were identified in 2006 and going forward. Thank you.
Okay, and this is the third league question that they were given ahead of time, and we're going to start with Paul. And the question is, do you believe inequity remains an issue in District 205, specifically in the context of how the board approves donations exceeding a certain amount? What are your thoughts on how to improve equity?
Over time, different parent groups have raised funds for a specific school improvement. I believe in free market donations, that whatever they raise comes from their effort and not the taxpayers, with the understanding that they are donating to the school district, and as such, all students should benefit from them.
Okay, Karen, same question.
The District 205 community is extremely sensitive, passionate, generous, and comes together to help everyone. We appreciate our District 205 Foundation and PTAs and community. This is a great quality of our community and even better example for our children. When donations are offered, many discussions take place and plans are put in place to ensure equitable experiences for all of our students while we honor our neighborhood schools. So we're balancing a lot of different things, and those go into the discussions and plans. When donations are brought to the board meetings, we've had conversations and made it a priority to communicate the thoughtfulness that goes into equalizing the education experience across the district for all students. We've updated policy, we've abided by the updated policy, we consider our resources, and we plan equity across the district through effective utilization of all of our resources to serve all of our students. The board has directed the administration to work with the PTAs and other donors to suggest donations that will further the education objectives of our district and that they're in alignment. And when private money is used for these items, the taxpayer money is freed up to be used to ensure equity of resources between the buildings. So it's been a big topic of conversation, a big discussion point, and it will continue to be so because we want to make sure that it's equity and how can we look at everything with the community wanting to be so generous as well as what resources we have across the district.
Okay, Boyana, your thoughts on equity?
Yes, I do believe we need to improve equity across the district. Conrad Fisher, overcrowding issue is still not adequately addressed by the referendum actions. We need more consistent and precise data to see if the needs will be addressed by the promised changes, and if not, what needs to be done to find a solution. In regards to the donations, I do believe that there are fundraising disparities across our school district. Some of our schools have more urgent needs, but not enough donations to address those needs. The fundraising disparity is not unique to our district. There are numerous examples of other districts that are already successful in solving this issue. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, and we can learn from them. The solution always seems to include an organized effort by the community. The Evanston-Skokie District 65 is one of many great examples. They formed an equity committee with representatives from each PTA, a principal representative, a teacher representative, and a few parent representatives from each school. The donations to a certain amount are used by the school that raised the funds, and the rest is shared with the community and goes into a bigger pot. They make group decisions on what the money will be used for. The main concern is that the donors will not be as generous if they know that the money is going somewhere else. The reality is exactly the opposite. Once given the knowledge and the opportunity to be a part of a larger picture and have a positive impact beyond their own school, the donors tend to be even more generous. A true human beauty in action. I agree with this concept, and I would propose that we create a 205 Equity Committee with representation, as I stated. The committee would decide on the amount kept by the fundraising school, and it would create a list of needs with assigned priorities. I do believe that our community is capable of coming together like this and seeing every school in the 205 as their own. Donors might not have enough time or energy to commit to understanding the needs and priorities of every school in the district, so the Equity Committee would allow them to extend their generosity and create a more unified community. Thank you.
Okay, Beth, same question.
Equity across our district is very important to me. I strongly believe that students should be able to have the same experiences no matter which school they attend. Almost all of our students end up at York High School, and it's important that they show up there with the same assets. I have been happy to hear recent conversations at different levels about evaluating the process of donations. We are very blessed to have such a generous community, and the district often receives large donations from PTAs, the foundation, and other community groups and sports clubs. The donations are very much appreciated by the board, staff, parents, and students of the district. The trick is creating a process by which we make sure these donations are for things that are in line with the district's vision. Donations made for projects the district has on its list can be very helpful in getting those things done for all schools in a more timely manner. Also, the PTA Council has been having conversations about some things that could be put in place to have PTAs collaborating more in their efforts, so that no matter what the budget or volunteer base, all schools would be able to participate in funding certain projects at their school. I have worked on projects that were sponsored by our school, but were accessible to all of the other schools as well, such as a room-sized National Geographic map that started off at Edison and was brought to other schools who requested it. This included a Saturday event where the community could experience the map and activities as well. We have so many groups who are supportive of our students and families. It's amazing what people in Elmhurst can come together and accomplish. I like the idea of those groups working together to offer relevant programming that can be accessible to our entire community. This is something I'm currently working on with a team as co-vice president of programs on the PTA Council Board. Thank you.
Okay, Chris, same question.
I'm in favor of an equitable distribution of resources throughout our district. As a board member, the two most important metrics that I would consider with regards to parity are academic outcomes and parity in our security practices. I acknowledge that other factors are also important, but these would be my top two priorities within this area. I also believe it is important to consider issues of parity in the context of our overall annual operating budget. With regards to donations specifically, I am open to reevaluating our current policies within the context of a few organizing principles. First, I think our local PTA structure should be preserved. I think they do amazing work and deserve to be applauded for their efforts. Second, donations as a whole should not throw off the balance of equity for our students. And third, I would oppose any plan that prohibited private donations, because I think these help to stretch our budget further on behalf of our students. Within the context of those points of view, I'm open to reevaluating our current processes to ensure that they reflect the priorities of our community as a whole. Thank you.
Stefan?
Last year at a board meeting, I had an opportunity to directly observe current board members discuss donation to the district. Through the discussion, there was sincere effort to ensure the donation did not set up an inequitable situation across the district. I took a look at the board manual and the policies, and any gift or donation are supposed to be used in a manner compatible with the board's education objectives and work towards resource equality among the learning centers. This directly correlated with how I feel that the donation process should be handled. If asked to join the board, I would follow the established policies. I'd work hard to ensure that the perception of inequality is limited. That being said, I also recognize the intent of policy sometimes don't achieve the goals that they're aiming for, and there may be a need to reanalyze and determine the appropriateness and effectiveness of that policy.
Okay, Courtney?
My entire adult life has been spent in public service. Public service is the good of the whole, not the good of the some. I feel strongly that equity among our schools is vital to our community as a whole to succeed. Our schools are not individual islands existing alone. Every student at every school deserves the right to the same District 205 experience. And that does not just mean in curriculum. It also means equity and access to what I like to refer to as the non-educational experience at school. Whether it's a student being able to attend a school or PTA-sponsored event, or join a school club, or participate in a school field trip, or be able to attend a school assembly sponsored by a PTA, these should be available to all students, regardless of which school they attend. My favorite part of co-chairing the grassroots community-led effort to pass the school referendum and getting out in the community to talk about the referendum was that it did not matter what part of Elmhurst I was in or what school I was talking about. Every school was going to benefit from the referendum. And this year, as the PTA Council President-elect, I've had the privilege to collaborate on a new initiative that we're hoping to implement with the support of the district and the Board of Education, where all PTAs would donate a portion of their annual fundraising efforts to an umbrella fund managed by the PTA Council. These funds would be available to all our schools to help individual schools, initiatives, or any individual student to bridge the gap between the goals of that school and the ability of that school or PTA to support that goal. And although it's easy to look at any specific donation or fundraiser under a microscope, I think it's more important to look at the process that allows the inequity to occur. There must be open lines of communication regarding fundraising efforts between the PTA, the school principal, the district, and the Board of Education.
Okay, finally, Gordon, your thoughts.
I enjoy living in a community where people are passionate about supporting our schools. There are examples of improvements to facilities and technology resources that would have been unfunded, such as the lights at the York Athletic Field. And I know that funds from Churchville Charge, where my kids went to school, paid for wireless access points to improve connectivity for the Chromebooks. I don't want to discourage innovation in how the community supports the district, but there are definitely inequities in donated support between the neighborhood schools. However, these donations free up funds in the budget that can be used elsewhere. We just need to continue to be mindful about how those funds are used in the district.
Now we're going to get to some of the audience questions, and I'm actually going to combine two, and we're going to start with Boyana. The safety of our schools is a top concern in our community and an ongoing process. Although the referendum will address the reconstruction of school entrances, what additional changes and improvements are still needed in our schools to ensure the safety of our children? And I'm going to add, do you feel teachers should be armed?
No, I don't think that teachers should be armed. I don't think that weapons should be anywhere near our children. When I worked for a safety company, we had an armed guard. That was, I thought, you know, the closest I wanted to get to a weapon. So no, I don't think our teachers should be armed. About the safety of our schools, I think what we can do is a quick test. How about we send an adult with a large bag to every school and see what happens? Can they get in? And if they can, just, you know, a friendly-looking adult with a bag walks in and, you know, shows their face to the camera. Do they let them in? And what happens after that? So based on that, I think we can, you know, there are quick fixes we can do next week. Change the cameras, add a camera or something, but I would do the test.
Okay. Gordon, I'm going to ask you about your thoughts on school safety and whether teachers should be armed.
I do not think teachers should be armed. I believe we already have, at some of our schools, we have safety entrances which have a dual set of doors that you have to get through, but that's not the case at all of them. I know as part of the referendum that's scheduled to be changed. The implementation of that hopefully is going to be up near the top of the list. But as far as other actions other than the entrances, I'm not aware of anything that I think would be beneficial.
Okay. Courtney?
So we are very fortunate in our district to have an amazing relationship with the Elmhurst Police Department, and the school resource officers that are assigned to every school do an amazing job keeping our administrators and educators informed about things that they can do at each individual school to make them the safest they can be. Elmhurst Police Department, in conjunction with the schools, do conduct those routine testing of our drills and our safety procedures, and that's really important. But updated training all the time for our educators to make them know what to do in a situation is extremely important. What you practice on the good times is what you're going to do in the bad times. I do not believe educators should be armed. It's just adding another possible scenario into a dangerous situation that could lead to a negative outcome.
Okay, Beth?
Having safe and secure entrances at all of our schools upgraded, safe and secure entrances at all of our schools was one of the things that made me want to get involved in promoting the referendum. And I'm so happy that that's going to happen. I'm also grateful that we have a safety committee working together with the Elmhurst Police Department that is sitting down to look at what the best recommendations will be for our schools, and especially the new schools that we're going to be building and the upgrades we're putting at our existing ones. I look to that group comprised of experts in this area to recommend the best practices for us. One thing I think we could evaluate at York High School, being such a large school, is just that we have enough staff that when we evaluate these systems we have, that we have enough staff to make them run well.
Chris?
I think we need to have a continuous improvement mindset on security issues. My function as a member of the board would be to continuously ask questions and work with experts on these issues. I think an important part of leadership is understanding where your expertise lies and then partnering with other folks who have an expertise in areas of security and making sure that you're always asking the right questions, keeping it at the top of the agenda. And I think that I would fulfill that responsibility as a member of the board and would seek to work collaboratively with folks who do have an expertise in the areas of security. I mentioned in my earlier comments today that I think facilities parity with regards to our security protocols is critical, and I think that we should be implementing that as soon as possible, and I do not believe that teachers should be armed. Thank you.
Hey, Stefan.
I believe we ask a lot of our teachers already today, and having them take on a security mindset and arming them is not something that I think strategically would align with what we want them to be focused on. So no, I do not support arming teachers. Unfortunately, there are a lot of other schools across the nation that we can likely reach out to and understand what enhancements are they making, and make sure we try to think about the industry as a whole and take best practices. Given we have funding with the referendum and money to put towards architectural enhancements, it gives us a unique opportunity to really think through some of those best practices that have plagued other areas. On a personal note, last year I had a police officer show up to my house, and it's sad to say that the first thing that went through my mind was, gosh, are all my kids home? That is not something we want for our community and to be worried about it, and we should be really focusing as many strategic avenues as we can to address that concern.
Okay, Karen?
So first I want to look at it from both a visible and invisible perspective. So you said beyond the what we're doing with a referendum with physically making the entrance more secure. What we're doing is we've enhanced the security safety committee, and we're looking at it from two-pronged approach. Not only making it safe physically and visibly, but also to focus on the behavioral health of our students. So what we're looking at is making sure that we don't, we want to balance the adult fear with the children's fear. And what we're trying to achieve is to have an environment with our kids don't have to think about it, that it's safe, but that they're there for learning, and that we don't bring some unnecessary things to them to actually create the issues for them and to create more fear. So it's something that we have talked about already, and it's things that we're putting in place, but we're looking at it from those perspectives so we can look at the whole child.
Okay, and finally, Paul?
I don't believe that you should arm people who have not had any training in firearms. You just introduce weapons into a building where there might not have been one to begin with. I would like to see the schools equipped with like an interlock where you go through 2 sets of doors to get in before you reach any student population. It's basically like a trap in a currency exchange. You enter in the first door, and then within the first and the second door, you're screened to see if you can go any further. I have participated in a watchdog program at Conrad Fisher. You're there to really encourage and work with the students, but you're also there to keep your eyes and ears open. I would like to see more of that propagated to the other schools.
Okay. Next question, another one from the audience, and we're going to start with Karen. What are your thoughts on the growing, quote, Save the Summer, end quote, campaign with a school calendar that starts either much later in August or after Labor Day?
Can you repeat the question, Barbara?
Sure. What are your thoughts on the growing Save the Summer campaign with a school calendar that starts either much later in August or after Labor Day?
Interesting question. So my children are 26 and 25, and we've seen the district have Save the Summer campaigns, and we've started in middle of August, and we've gone to starting after Labor Day with the original referendum in '06. So what we're trying to do is look at, what do we want for the students' experiences? And there's a lot of students that are going to summer school. And so, and looking at, how can they help themselves using the summer to prepare for the next school year. So we're looking at it from many different perspectives. What does the community want? What does the student want? What will help them meet their objectives? And also, we have shown adjustment on, what does the community want? And that we have throughout, every time we've changed things, before I was on the board, as I've gone on the board, we have gone out to the community to look at, what do you want?
Okay, Paul, do you have thoughts on Save the Summer?
I personally would like to see a Labor Day start. August is the prime month of the summer, and I frankly would like to see my grandkids be out of school during that month. Extending the June date a little further to me would not have as much as an impact as having them start reporting to school in the middle of August. I would like to see them get all of August off.
Okay, Beth?
So I would like to see us evaluate the calendar. I can see this from both sides. I have had elementary school students, of course, and I have a high schooler now. So while I do think that we're going back to school in the nicest weather that we have here in Chicago, and I don't particularly care for that, I do have a high schooler that just took finals for the first time before Christmas break. I did feel like that was a benefit, and he was able to enjoy his Christmas break and relax and not have to worry about that. So I see that from the point of a high school parent. I think there's different things we can look at, different possibilities, and I think getting feedback from the community and deciding on the best way to see what everybody would like to do would be the best way to go about that. Perhaps we could have different grade levels starting at a little bit different times. Thank you.
Okay, Boyana?
I would definitely want to know what does the community want. So a survey of some kind, and then just make sure that we are asking the whole community, because our kids' schedules are affecting the grandparents, the parents, even people without children. It's the whole community that's going to be affected with whatever change we come up with. But I would be open to just hearing what do we really want. And then we need to keep in mind that we have to be compatible with other districts, because if the parents are working there, they're going to have to juggle a lot. So just keep that in mind, that we're not isolated, that we need to look at the bigger picture. How does that impact everything, everybody's schedule? And I I don't know, there was one more thing that came to mind just now, you know, with the weather changing and, you know, our summers are super hot. Just maybe consider, is it better to keep the kids, you know, home or, you know, out of school during the hot summer and postpone? Just something to keep in mind. But definitely, I am open to discussion.
Okay, Stefan?
I'm a big believer that objectives need to be kind of outlined and weigh the positives and negatives. And I think Bojana is right. There needs to be community involvement and really understand what are we gaining by saving the summer. You look outside today, I definitely want to go back to summer. But it's important to the community, and it is a broad topic that my family has dealt with even in North Carolina, and trying to understand when you can take vacations and spend the time together with your grandparents and family members, travel, and so many other perspectives. But I also think that you look across leading practices in the world, and some summers are actually not as long as what we have and been accustomed to. So I think you can kind of look at it from both frames, and it should ultimately be a community decision.
Okay, Chris?
Well, first, I have to admit that the slogan, Save the Summer, just sounds so compelling. It sounds like something that you want to support if you can. But on this issue, I would need to evaluate the specific ask here and learn from what the community's requests are, and also partner with our administration and educators to make sure I understood what the costs and benefits were before I would be able to opine further on this topic. Thank you.
Gordon?
The current August start allows the high school to have final exams before the winter break, which, if you have a high school student, is a fantastic thing. So I am in favor of maintaining the existing start date. And I think that having the entire district start and end at the same time is important, because if you shift start dates for one portion of the district, you're just going to create more challenges for families to be able to vacation or otherwise do things together.
Okay, and lastly, Courtney?
I too love that slogan. I do. And I grew up on the East Coast, so I never started school before Labor Day. And I have often had this discussion with many people in this community. I do understand why the calendar was shifted to benefit from a lot of different aspects. Testing before break for high school students. It also helps us align with other divisions for athletics, because there's many schools in the area that they are also on that same short summer shift. I would like to know more about how it does impact our educators and what their perspective on it is. And I am concerned about how it got to this point. So I would like to know more about the decision-making process that got us here. I do understand why it's here now and the benefits of it, but I would like to hear more about the history of it.
Okay. Now we're going to go back to Gordon with the next question. What are your thoughts on changing the district policy to allow 6th through 12th grade students to keep and take home their mathematics tests? Currently, students get to review and ask questions for a very short period in class, missing a valuable opportunity to work corrections and to learn from their mistakes and to process the feedback teachers give on their test work.
I'm sorry, you said the ages were what grades? 6 to 10?
6 through 12.
6 through 12?
And it just seems to be limited to taking home mathematics tests.
I guess I wasn't aware this was a district policy. As far as the benefits of taking home a test, it's only really valuable if the student really wants to learn further. And I think that if a student wants to learn further, whether they have the ability to take that test home or not is going to happen.
Okay, Courtney?
So I have a 7th grader, and I was also not aware of this policy. I have not seen a
it's a change. It's a, what are your thoughts on changing the district policy?
So, you know, I struggle with this because I agree with Gordon that the onus should be on the student to be prepared for those exams. I've seen the amount of effort our educators put in, giving students opportunity during their lunch hours, after school hours, and I feel like our educators give students every chance they can to succeed. And so to give them more of an opportunity if they're struggling. Our educators are pretty available at all times, and I don't know enough about the policy to not allow it, to really feel strongly either way, but I am very optimistic about how many educators have reached out and offered their extra time to help our students succeed. So.
Okay, Beth?
I have noticed the policy because it's something that didn't happen when I was in school. So when I say, like, where are your tests? And they're like, oh, we can't take them home. That's so I know about it. I can't say that I feel like it's affected my child in a negative way. I would like to talk to teachers about the policy and why it was developed and the history behind it before I would give my point of view on it, though. But as a parent, that is my feedback.
Okay, Boyana?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of this policy, and I don't agree with it. I just have a hard time believing that teachers developed this policy. So I think kids should bring home everything as much as they can so the parents can be involved and monitor their progress, and if there's a need, because it's together, the teachers and the parents come together raising a child. So I would love to know how my child is doing, and any information I can be given would definitely help. I also think maybe some parents, if they don't want to see it, that's fine too. So make it an option. Maybe parents can say at the beginning of the year that they would like to see them or not. And I think that should be the same, just like homework should be available. And if some parents don't like it, they don't have to use it, and it's just, it should be optional and available. Thank you.
Karen, your thoughts?
I think it's more of a practice than a policy, and it's probably being piloted different places. I know that I just recently heard, where some of the tests were not being taken home because, different things that we don't want to happen are happening. But the point, the discussion was about, the students need that, the parents want to know how their students are doing, and so, it really brought to our attention, what's really our priorities and our objectives. And it's all about learning, it's all about seeing how you're doing, it's all about the parents seeing how the kids are doing so that they can support the students. And so, I think it was maybe something inadvertent, and it's being addressed.
Okay, Chris?
Striving for academic excellence across our district would be my top priority as a member of the board, and I believe in a continuous improvement mindset in that regard. I would certainly like to better understand this practice and how this would help us improve educational outcomes, and understand the origin of this before I would opine specifically. But in general, I'm in favor of raising the bar for all stakeholders involved in our district and challenging everyone involved in a constructive way to achieve an even higher level of academic performance over time. Thank you.
Okay, Stefan?
So my oldest is in 3rd grade, so this practice policy is a few years off for me, but so I'll kind of address it the best way I can. There's been a change from a 3rd grade perspective where they don't bring home homework, and from a parent perspective, it's hard to understand what they're involved in and how they're engaged. So similar to the other candidates, I think there's probably a lot more information I would need to understand around the objectives, as we've talked about in the past. What are the positives? What are the negatives? And really take an informed decision from that perspective.
Okay, and lastly, Paul?
Mathematics was my undergraduate degree, and I graded papers for the university, and I can tell people learn from a review of their mistakes. So I would like to see the papers come home so the parents can review them with them and say, this is what you did incorrectly, or this is what you failed to show. I think there's a tremendous learning experience with that, and I cannot see a reason why they would not send the tests home with the students.
Okay, next question, and I'll start with Gordon. Prior to the current teacher contract, the last contract guaranteed a 6% pay increase for the last 3 years of a teacher's term. This is a large impact to the already overburdened pension system. If you are elected, would you agree to further the above average to further above average CPI pay raises?
No.
Okay. Any thoughts on that?
I think it's, in the state of Illinois, we have a lot of challenges with the budget and finances. While everybody loves to have an increase year over year, I think it puts a large burden on the state of Illinois, who ultimately has to fund the teacher's pension once they leave the district, which is all of us.
Okay. Beth?
Can I ask you to repeat the question?
Sure. Prior to the current teacher contract, the last contract granted a 6% pay increase for the last 3 years of a teacher's term. This is a large impact to the already overburdened pension system. If you are elected, would you agree to further above average CPI pay raises?
This isn't something that I have a lot of knowledge about, so I would want to look into it and research it a little bit more. I do know that there are a lot of things being talked about at the state level that have to do with pensions, and I think that some of those decisions are going to weigh into this as well, so that would be a factor as well.
Paul?
This is something that changed in the last contract. They reduced that payment from a 6% increase, I think, to 4%. The language came about because the state of Illinois said you shall not increase teachers' salary more than 6% in a year, and everyone took that to mean, well, you can increase it 6%, and we should have that. I have a problem with it in that it incites people to retire for a cash benefit when they could be teaching for 4 more years. You get people who rise to the top of the pay scale and get all the associated degrees, and they leave because it's economically more feasible to do that. So I have a real problem with any kind of incentive that I think 3% would be closer to the mark.
Okay, Chris?
I value teachers. I still remember many of the wonderful ones that I've had over the course of my lifetime. Having said that, I've been involved in enough negotiations and evaluations and capital allocation decisions to know not to be committing to something of this importance far in advance. My understanding is that we've recently entered into a fresh contract and that won't be renegotiated for several years. I am a strong believer in fiscal responsibility. We currently have several complex issues before us. We have to still raise the money that was approved in the recent referendum. We have to make decisions about how to best allocate that capital. There's no requirement that we spend the full $168 million. If we can achieve those commitments to the community at a lower cost, I think we should be doing so. And we need to accomplish all of those tasks while still making academic progress every year for our students. Thank you.
Okay, Courtney?
Although I value our educators in this district, I would be very hesitant to approve or agree to something like that. I'm really concerned about the impact on our community and the taxpayers. I'm concerned about the state pension system and their ability to absorb and support the pension system that's already there. And I'm concerned about how, if the state can't support that pension system, how it could somehow come back and fall upon the district to support that pension system. So, like all of us, we value our educators and want to keep them satisfied in our district, because to draw the strong educators and strong participants here, but it would be difficult for me to support that type of approval.
Okay, Boyana?
I would definitely need more information on this. I wouldn't jump to any conclusions, but I also would not focus on the delta, which is the difference, which is that percentage. I would really focus on the amounts. Do we pay them enough? Too much? How do we compare with other school districts? I would be very afraid of losing good teachers, and I know that we have good teachers. So I don't think that the increase should be uniform. I think we need to reward based on merit. So I would really look into this in detail and compare big picture. Do we want to keep these people? And if we do, we have to value them. So I wouldn't just automatically jump to any, 6% or whatever the percentage is. I wouldn't be caught in that. It would have to be a bigger picture and more information.
Okay, Karen, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm actually really proud of what we've accomplished as a team together since the 8 years that I've been on the board. I know that we've worked really hard to work with our teachers to be in agreement. We actually, the legislative change on the retirement happened almost the 11th hour when we were renegotiating the contract. And because of the approach that we've been taking to include educators in decision-making and part of, it's the team, we were able to look at the priorities that we all wanted, educators, board, community, et cetera. And we're actually able to negotiate the contract in a very short period of time with something that's really important to them. So I would attest to kind of the philosophy that we're working on is what are our priorities, and everybody agreeing to those priorities. And based on that, how can we make an agreement with a contract, even given somebody else making decisions that impact it?
Okay, Stefan?
I've had an opportunity to really engage with many school administrators and teachers, and I've been really impressed by the capabilities that they've been able to provide. When you look at contract negotiations, you have to look at the full picture. And so when you hear 6% over a committed 3-year time frame, being in banking, that feels atypical to me. So it's inconsistent with how I've handled similar discussions in the past. That being said, I don't have the full picture at the moment of how they looked at the full contract and what other areas the teachers, as part of their partnership with the board and others, came to that agreement. If you reduced in other areas, did that make it comparable and commensurate with what they were expecting? I think we all agree that you want your teachers happy, and so that's a driving force in any kind of negotiation. But to address the question specifically, 6% over 3 years is atypical from what I've experienced.
Okay, I think we have time for just a couple more questions. I'm going to start with Courtney with this one. What role, if any, do you feel District 205 should have in financially assisting other districts that might be more financially challenged throughout Illinois?
An interesting question, right? When we talk about equity among our own schools and our own in our own district, it's a strong issue for all of us. And as I've mentioned, I feel very strongly about the equity in our own district. And I don't know how much inequity exists among surrounding districts. So I don't know that I could actually speak to that point without learning more about the issues that other districts are struggling with and how we could help other districts without impacting negatively the things we're trying to accomplish right here in 205.
Okay, Chris?
I believe one of the most important responsibilities of a member of the school board is to be a fiduciary on behalf of our taxpayers for District 205. To the extent that our resources were being diverted to other parts of the state, I would have trouble agreeing to that and would certainly need to evaluate the details, but my initial reaction would be that would be something I would oppose. Thank you.
Boyana?
I don't think it has to be, needs to be financial only. I don't, we're already struggling within our district. So I think there are other ways that we can create this win-win situation where we can maybe, I'm aware of, a district next to us that's really struggling. And it doesn't have to be financial. We can help them in many other ways that will help them with their finances. So if we show them our best practices and just spend some time with their leadership, our leadership can combine what is the best thing that we're doing and maybe show them. I really believe in the win-win. It doesn't have to be, win-lose. So I think we can do things. We can give them our time, for sure. And then if ever hopefully we're one day in a situation where we can financially help, sure. But I don't think that now we're in that situation.
Hey, Paul?
Years ago, a tornado passed through Will County, destroying their schools, and Will County came and asked surrounding school districts if they could get assistance. It came before the board, and the thought was that we should keep our resources here. It sounded cruel, but evidently the precedent has been set that if you raise the money in your own community, it should be used for the benefit of your community.
Okay, Karen?
So with the new funding formula in education called the evidence-based formula, we actually are helping other districts. We don't get as much from the state. It continues to go down. That's why we have engaged the community so much over the last 8 years, so that we can find out what our community's priorities are, and we can allocate the resources appropriately. And that's another reason why we have looked at, debt refinancing and the fund balance, because we have to ensure that as we help other districts, that we're also keeping ourselves as a national leader in education.
Okay, Beth?
I was recently thinking about this with our schools that are going to be torn down. I was thinking if there were items in the schools that we could no longer use in our district, would we possibly offer those to other schools in the area that may need them or could use them? So that's something that we could possibly look into. A lot of these things that help other schools in our area, I think, are done in our community with parent groups that come together to accomplish things to help others. So for one, at Edison, we had Bobcats Giving Back. So this was a group that would come together, and the principal would reach out to schools that were in need. We'd help schools that had a natural disaster or that were needing books for certain programs, and parents would come together to help acquire those items, and we would send them off. So I think there's other ways within the schools that we could do that.
Okay, Stefan?
Yeah, it comes down to juggling the fiscal responsibility as well as really trying to help those in need. And I think it comes down to also how much are you talking about and what is the purpose that you're trying to achieve. The fiscal responsibility as a board member would drive me considerably, but it doesn't mean that it's a hard no that if there are other areas that need support and there's good means that it would in turn help us, then I would be supportive of that.
Okay, Gordon?
So this is a different kind of application of a previous question, really, about donations to the schools and how sometimes they can be disproportionate in one areas and others. I think if there are groups within the community, whether they be student-based or teacher or other committees that want to assist financially other districts for specific items, and I think Beth brought up a good idea of the schools that are going to be torn down, if there are items within there that are still usable, that they can be repurposed. But similar to, I think, pretty much everybody here, I think financially assisting by means of the board to other districts would be challenging at best to our own financial.
Okay. So due to time, we're done with the questions, and now we're going to move to our final statement. And for that, I'm going to begin with Gordon, but first I'd like to thank all the candidates for participating. I'd like to thank the audience for attending, and I'd like to remind you that the forum can be seen from March until Election Day on Comcast Channel 6, AT&T Channel 99, elmhursttv.com, and the League of Women Voters website. So if you know people in the community that were not able to attend today, please encourage them to see this important forum. And again, Gordon, we'll begin with you and your final statement.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing the candidates to share their positions today, along with the people who have shown up here to be in person and see firsthand for themselves what our opinions and thoughts are about a wide-ranging series of questions. I'm proud that my children have attended Elmhurst schools for the past 13 years, and I'm excited about the improvements that we will be starting in the near term due to the passage of the referendum. My construction management knowledge and experience will enable the school board to help make the best possible decisions during this very complex process. The facility improvements we are undertaking are an important part of ensuring the district is meeting the needs of our community for today and tomorrow. I want to make sure that we build the right foundations for success, literally in our facilities and academically for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Stefan?
Thank you for allowing me to take part in this candidate forum. Across the district, there's so many variables to consider when considering policy adjustments or setting the educational objectives. I feel like I have a broad background which allows me to think would be able to be a strong advocate for each of you as we encourage and try to keep Elmhurst at the forefront of educational greatness. Elmhurst is a wonderful city and community that I've grown to really enjoy, and it's been a critical thing for my family to really grow in Illinois. So I would enjoy the opportunity to contribute in this capacity. Appreciate the time.
Okay, Beth.
Thank you all so much for coming today to hear from us and for being invested in our community. I hope that you will stay tuned into all that will be happening in the coming months and years with the school improvements. Whether you're a parent with kids in our schools or not, the decisions that are being made in the building process may affect you. Please get involved in any pieces of the plan that you feel may concern or excite you. It's always good to have new faces getting involved and bringing new thoughts and ideas to the table. I'd like you to know that if elected, I would do my best to be a good representative of our residents and work hard to understand the concerns of the community. If anyone has further questions for me or thoughts on another topic, I'd be happy to discuss those with you. Thank you.
Karen?
Thank you again for providing the opportunity to highlight some accomplishments since being elected in 2011. We've made it a priority to improve culture. We listen to the community and the staff. We've made that a priority, and we'll continue to do that, and to work to be a national leader in education. This is how I will continue, if re-elected, to serve you. We plan to continue to set the bar high, be accountable, resolve complexities, identify solutions, be a good steward of taxpayer money, and engage the community and the staff. The experience I've learned in the 2 terms on the Board of Education, observing, listening, practicing, and problem solving, provides understanding and depth of the priorities of yours. I will continue to be an engaged Board of Education leader who has a track record of accountability, fiscal responsibility, and working together to execute successful solutions to move District 205 into the future. In order to do these things for you, I need your vote. Remember, on April 2nd, vote Karen Stufen.
Okay, Paul?
This is an exciting school board race. There's 8 candidates running for 4 seats. This is a true election. The community wins when there is this much enthusiasm for a school board race. I wish all the fellow candidates good fortune in the coming days and wish them much success. If you want to learn more about me, you can visit my website, which is friendsofpauldemichael.com. That's all one word, and learn more. Thank you.
Thank you. Boyana?
Thank you to the League for organizing the forum and giving us the chance to introduce ourselves to the community. Thank you to everyone here, or watching, or reading. You're doing it because you care about our school district and our whole community. I want you to know that I deeply care about what you think. I want you to see me as a channel for you through which you can communicate what you feel, what you think. I was that parent who came to the school board meeting in pain, and I spoke in public, and it was hard. I don't want anybody to get to that phase. So I want to communicate with you. I'm watching on Facebook. We have wonderful communication on Facebook about the school district, and I'm watching everything, all the discussions and everything, and that's a good way to really hear the community. I'm personable, I'm friendly, really tell me whatever you need to tell me. And I'm also going to be at Elmhurst Public Library next Sunday at 1 o'clock in the room 5. If you have any questions for me, you want to meet me in person. And just want to tell you, vote for the best candidates. I know I will. Thank you.
Okay, Chris?
Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you all this afternoon. My goal as a member of the board will be to help our district reach its full potential. I will have children in District 205 for the next 15 years. As a father and a homeowner, I believe that my interests are aligned with our community. And I also believe strongly, as I've outlined today, that we need an appropriate representation of finance expertise on our board at this time. The priorities that I would represent, if elected, are the pursuit of academic excellence, maintaining fiscal discipline, delivering on the commitments made to the community in the recent referendum while carefully managing disruption risks, and maintaining security as a top priority. If you agree with these priorities, I ask for your support in this election, and I also ask for your vote on April 2nd. Thank you.
Finally, Courtney.
Thanks. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to everyone here today, including all of the candidates. I am a passionate leader who will continue to step up to represent our community. Having served my country and this community in federal law enforcement for 26 years, one of my highest priorities will be school safety. I am proud to have served as co-chair on the volunteer committee to pass the referendum, and I want to make sure that the goals of this critical capital project are developed and met as promised. I have been encouraged in my various volunteer PTA roles to see stronger and more consistent communication between the District 205 community, the board, and administration. I want to join the school board now to ensure to continue to build and strengthen the great bridge that has been created to better unify our community. You can count on me to make the decisions in the best interests of our children and our community as a whole.
All right, and thank you everyone again for attending. Thank you.
In an effort to provide residents with an easy, secure, and safe way to dispose of unwanted or expired prescription drugs, the City of Elmhurst has a collection box in the Police Department lobby. This safe and easy drop-off location allows residents to be eco-friendly and keep medications out of the water supply, in addition to keeping them out of the hands of our youth or individuals who might otherwise abuse prescription drugs. Prescription painkillers, or opioid pain relievers, are to blame for nearly 3/4 of tragedies caused by drug overdose. Residents are encouraged to look through medicine cabinets and bring these expired or unwanted medications to the Elmhurst Police Department. In an effort to make it even easier for residents to dispose safely of their unwanted or expired medications, the police department hosts annual prescription drug take-back days, where a portable prescription drug collection box is available at various community events. For more information, visit www.elmhurst.org.